Welcome, Wapham crew. Secure your tinfoil hats, buckle down tight, and hold on loosely as we soar over the rocky tops of the La Platas on a rocky mountain high, get sucked into the vortex of the Four Corners, and settle down snugly at mile marker 420 in colorful Colorado. It is Saturday, December 11th, Sunday, December 12th. For those of you across the pond and beyond, welcome to We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening to you. I hope you guys had an awesome weekend so far, and thank you so much for joining us this evening on our show. If you're listening live right now, you're listening on Spreaker.com under We Are Paradox Media, or KPNL Radio, which you can find at kpnl-db.com. If you'd like to listen on your free time, you can find us on Spreaker, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, iTunes, iHeartRadio, CastBox, Tumblr, SoundCloud, TuneIn Radio, Deezer, Podcast Addict, and Podcast Chaser. Make sure you go over to our YouTube channel. I did a lot of upgrades. It's funny, YouTube only allows you to change thumbnails so many per day, so I can do some more this evening. If you just heard a thunk, that was my mic falling on my clipboard. But make sure you go over there and subscribe and tickle that little bell so next time we have an episode come out, you will be privy to it and be able to enjoy. Follow and like us on Facebook as well as Twitter. It'd be awesome to have you. We got a lot of humor and cool paranormal stuff going on over there. So tonight, I have a treat for all my guys and gals out there. Tonight we will be talking to and getting to know Mr. Eldon McInville as well as Mr. Brian James of the Global United Paranormal Foundation. So the Global United Paranormal Foundation is an organization developed very recently and is still undergoing continuous reconstruction by combining the former lead investigators, Brian James of SGC, which is Spokane Ghost Crew, and Eldon McInville of Arizona PRI, which is Arizona Paranormal Research Investigations, and Mr. Jason Graham of Southwest Paranormal. Our purpose is to discover, learn, teach, and mentor about the truths of the unknown around the world. We are here to help the public, paranormal community, as well as the spirits. We are driving to reach a growth not only from within our organization, but also within the paranormal community. Well, welcome, Mr. McInville and Mr. James.
Thank you, Tess. I appreciate that. We're glad to be here.
That was a beautiful intro. Thank you.
Oh, thank you. I didn't stumble too much. I often worry about that. I'm like, man.
Well, man, you nailed it. That was fantastic.
Aw, thanks.
That was a fabulous job. I don't, we've got to take some lessons, Brian, because that was absolutely beautiful, man. We need to take some lessons from Tessa and see if maybe she can mentor us on our podcast and see how that goes.
Right? It's only taken me about 4 years so far to get where I'm at. So.
Well, we're still dealing with Brian's kind of rigmarole, so, we got to weed through the mess sometimes with him. So, we won't even touch on that. Got to pick on Brian every once in a while.
It's a stiff topic.
Whatever, old timer. Whatever.
So,
yeah, I'm usually...
Go ahead.
Go ahead. I'm usually the blunt of Brian's jokes, so when we get on podcasts, he tries to pick on me a little bit before we get going. So, I try to pick on him on this one. So, this is free time for me.
Yeah, it gets your energy all pumped up and ready to go. Some people play music and pump their arms up and down and do different things like that, or you can fuck around with and pick on your friends, and that kind of gets the juices flowing too.
Oh, most definitely.
Oh, yeah, he's fun to pick on too, and I try to get a punch in every chance I get. But, I usually don't get much of a chance on our podcast, so I'm taking the advantage now. So,
got to get it while it's good.
Absolutely.
All right.
Get it while it's good. Get it while it's hot.
How did you guys meet? How did you guys come together?
Well, it's actually a really funny story. I was doing podcasts when I was with the Spokane Ghost crew, and I sent a message, probably to about 250 different paranormal teams from all around the world, saying, hey, I have a podcast. I'm looking for guests. And he happened to sign up. And I did what they called Podvember, which I did 1 to 3 podcasts every day throughout the entire month of November. And he came on my show.
Every single day?
Every single day.
Holy shnikes. Yeah. Kudos to you.
It was very strenuous and very difficult and annoying. And, yeah, I learned my lesson from that one real quick.
It was very entertaining.
Yeah. But, he came on my podcast and we instantly clicked. And, we were talking about para-unity. And, we had a lot of the same views. And he hit me up one day. And he said, man, I have this great idea. And I said, what a coincidence. So do I. And we heard each other's ideas out. We liked what we heard. And he offered me the Global Paranormal. And I was hands down. I said, yes, let's do this.
So how did you find each other? Okay, so one of the questions you guys asked me, like, how did you find us? And I think I was scrolling through Facebook, which I don't do a lot, but I think I saw you guys live doing your show and listened in for a little while, and I really loved your guys' energy, so I reached out. I was like, I'd really love to have you guys on my show. And I don't know, did you ask that question because you guys are so newly formed and you're just like, holy shnikes, like, where did this come from? Because I know you're doing updates every day and you're trying to get everything going online and updated and everything. Well, it's such a hassle, but something we got to do.
Well, we certainly don't want the misconception out there that we're actually new, because our members, our co-founders, we are certainly nowhere close to being new in the field. The idea of global,
pretty much,
the Global Paranormal Foundation that we have, that concept is new. But what we're doing is we're bringing our experience that we've had over decades of doing this and developing the foundation. Brian, he's been doing his for, well over a decade. I've been doing mine for well over a decade. We do have a third party involved with us, a third co-founder that also jumped on track with us. Unfortunately, he had to work tonight, so he's not with us. Otherwise, he would be here. But he also, same as like what Brian's saying, we had a lot of the same views, a lot of the same scope, and he has also joined with us to, put this ball in motion. So definitely, the team itself, the foundation is new, but what we bring to it is definitely a lot of experience that we're bringing to this particular situation.
For sure. And this is a new organization, the Global United Paranormal Foundation. But you guys are not new to the game. You guys have been doing this and been in the field for quite a while.
Absolutely.
So could you tell us about your group, and then we'll ask Mr. Brian James. Damn it. I knew I'd do that.
That's DRS kicking in.
All the timers.
Well, I really don't consider it my group here, because now we're actually all one group. So there is no, what you'd really specifically say, a separate group, because we're all one now. However, I can go into what our scope is, and what we're trying to do is get to the truth of things and put that truth out there for everyone to see what that is. There's a lot of fake stuff going on out there, and people are falling for a lot of fake stuff. Or maybe they're not, and they just get a bad rap about what the paranormal really means. And, what we want to do is we want to educate the public as to what the paranormal investigating honestly entails and what the real dangers are. There's more to it than just grabbing your necrophonics app on your phone and walking out in the woods as an urban explorer would do,
Right.
and catching what you're saying is cool stuff. You have to, there's people's lives that are affected by this. And, there are people tormented by, haunted activity constantly. People that can't sleep, children that are being harmed, and it's certainly no joking matter, especially when you're dealing with spirits that you have no understanding of. And urban explorers, they don't get that the dangers are real. And, you've got the public saying, well, we've got this YouTuber, he's got, 2 million, subscribers, and look what he's doing. So maybe we should go do the same thing. They don't understand the dangers involved. And the next thing you know, they've got a problem they're taking home, And so we're here to give the awareness of the dangers and hopefully teach the folks that there's something other than just urban exploring.
Yeah, and it's funny because I have watched several different urban explorers because paranormal things do pop up. And a lot of times they're not expecting that, whether it's a cave or an old abandoned mansion or house or shack or whatever. Sometimes they'll go in there and then they'll realize or recognize like there is actually something happening in there. And sometimes they go back. A lot of times they don't.
And when that happens, a lot of times you'll notice that they'll run. And, the one thing that I have learned, early on in this field is that you're not running from anything. You can't run from it, because in the spirit world, they move too quickly. I'll just say that, I'll give an example. Just not too long ago, I encountered a figure. I was actually in a cemetery here close by where I live at. And I had noticed a figure that was standing by a monument. Something had caught my attention behind me, and just as quick as I turned my head to look back, I turned it back around, and it had literally moved over 300 yards within that split second. So, you're talking about something that moves extremely faster than anything I've ever seen on 2 feet run. And so you're not going to outrun it. So what are you running from? That's really not the way to handle it. Not to mention you're showing that you're scared, that gives a weakness, and they play on your weaknesses, especially if they're ominous and intend to do you some harm.
Yeah, and a lot of times they just feel like, okay, you're encroaching on my space where I feel safe, like nobody ever comes and bugs me here. And yeah, so I think they kind of get freaked out and they're just trying to protect themselves, not really try to hurt you, but like you said, try to get you to leave or to go.
And you do have those types, and most spirits I've encountered, are not what you'd say looking to do you any harm. It's no different than you would be walking down the streets of New York City, Most folks just, never mind you, and a lot of people are good people, but you do have your bad apples in the bunch, and it works the same way with the spirit world, Most of them aren't out to do you any harm. They're just either wanting attention. That's why you get a lot of your noticed activity, or maybe, like you said, you're in a space that they don't want you in and they want you to leave, so they'll do everything they can to scare you.
Yeah, it's such an interesting field. I love it because it seems like every time there's just a new story happening. You cannot predict what's going to happen. Every spirit or entity is different, and it's pretty interesting how, not interesting, but for me, common sense. When somebody dies, they are who they were when they died. You don't automatically become a good person or a bad person or whatever. Like, you're still the same person, whether you go to the other side or not. But
Precisely.
Absolutely.
So,
you see, it's,
go ahead,
it's
Brian.
like I always say, they don't work on our time. We work on their time. When they want to be known, they'll more than hell let you know when they're ready to be known. But if they don't want nothing to do with you, they're gonna hide from you. They're gonna run from you, and you ain't gonna capture anything. You got to get to treat them like a person, because they were once a person. You got to make friends with them pretty much. To get that good evidence, you have to respect them in order to get that respect back.
That's correct. I always say you get a lot more with sugar than you do salt. And, it's almost kind of like going into a place and, trying to earn somebody's trust. You meet them for the first time. First impression is a lasting impression. And it's the same way with the spirits as well. When they first meet you and encounter you, what kind of a person are you? How are you going to treat them? With disrespect, well, chances are they're probably not going to want to deal with you.
We need to clean up in aisle 3. No, I'm sorry. It sounded like something spilled. I'm like, holy shnikes. Sometimes there's a lot of background noise coming from Brian. So it's, I'm like, what's
that's me being Chef Boyardee over here.
So if you're not talking, could you please just mute for a second? Because a lot of it's coming through. But that's difficult too, because sometimes I forget to unmute. And they're like, I can't hear you. What are you saying?
So really you see a lot of ghost shows a lot of times. I'm not going to mention any, of course. I'm sure if you watch the ghost shows enough, you'll probably pinpoint what I'm talking about. But you don't go into places and antagonize the spirits. Not everything you come across is demonic. Not everything you come across is actually paranormal. But the best case scenario is that you go in and you be respectful. You wouldn't want to disrespect somebody when you go in their home. Don't disrespect the spirits.
Yeah, I totally agree.
That's not the way to get things done.
That's my number one rule as far as paranormal investigation is to have respect, not only for the people that you're investigating for, but for the people that you will be communicating with or, running across or whatnot. You have to have respect. To be antagonistic and volatile or whatnot does not really turn out good. Yes, sometimes you get activity. Sometimes they just really, suck into whatever corner or wherever they're hiding, but it's not really a good thing. Yes, you could get something on video or whatever, but what's the cost? Like what's the damage that is caused?
Mm-hmm. That's correct. Absolutely. You could take something home to your family and now your family's in danger, and if you don't know how to deal with that, you got some serious troubles.
Speaking of, go ahead, Brian.
I can give you a perfect example of an ignorant investigator that thought he knew it all. And it's actually about myself.
I was keeping that to myself because I was like, I don't want to be a smart ass, but I was totally picking up on you were going to say it was you.
I was the cocky, brash 3-year into investigating, offers of my own TV show. Long and short of it, I walked into an abandoned hospital, and instantly, before I even knew what was in there, I was calling them out. I was telling them mean things. I threw my lead investigator under the bus in a surgical ward, and I came home with a demonic attachment.
Oh, so you pulled a Zach Baggins.
I sure did. I pulled
she decided to name somebody.
I'm sorry. I pulled a Baggins. And it destroyed my team. It almost destroyed my marriage. And it took 6 sagings and 3 blessings to get that demon to release off of me.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so and what Brian is saying, this is the real danger that you face when you go into these locations. If you're 15 minutes, of fame, claim to fame, that's wonderful, that's great, that's what you want. But understand that by doing this, you are putting yourself and you could possibly put your family at a risk of doing so. And I think there's a lot of ignorance to that.
Right now we're in a wind tunnel. My earballs.
I'm so sorry.
It's all right. What were you saying again? No, yeah, it can really put the investigation in danger as well as the family. And I was going to ask you guys, not just being in the investigative field, but if you came across the paranormal before you even decided to investigate it, have you found that things are attracted to you because you're somewhat like a beacon, and so these different things will come into your house because they know that they can communicate with you? Or do you guys not have anything like that really happen?
I think
oh, go ahead, Eldon.
I think, not all of us, I don't think, are beacons in the paranormal field, like myself. Example, I'm not a medium or anything like that. I do think the more that you're involved in this field and the more that you investigate, exposing yourself out there, you become more sensitive to the paranormal. I don't know that you become a beacon per se. I think that's more on the lines of your mediums and your empaths and that type of people. I think their energy is a lot brighter than, say, mine, where they would be attracted to those people more so than me. Brian?
Well, myself, I have a way of attracting them to me. I'm what they call a sensitive. Now, I can't tell you where they are. I can't tell you what they ate for breakfast before they died, but I can sense them when they're around me and they're around my team. I can say, okay, guys, there's somebody around us. Let's get ready to rock and roll. And, they always seem to not want to come home with me, but they'll grab a hold of me some way, my shirt, tug on my pants, grab me by my shoulders or something. And at first it was like, oh, hell no, there's something grabbing me. I can't see. This ain't cool. But once I got more into the field and got more comfortable with my surroundings, it was more of the, okay, they're trying to communicate with me. Let's see what they have to say.
Yeah, and it's hard for them to communicate, so it's interesting to have those different tools, but sometimes you don't need to hear anything, you just can feel the feeling of what they're trying to say or whatnot, and then, if it comes to it, you can do more, but otherwise, I don't know, when it comes to in my house, not only are they attracted to me, but my kids, because they're gifted as well, and it's just like a really bright beacon there or lighthouse or whatever. Sometimes we get some pretty interesting good things. Sometimes we get some bad things, angry things. Luckily, nobody's really been harmed, but yeah. Somebody was talking in the chat room about going to these different investigations as far as old warehouses and such that are abandoned. He's like, oh boy, now I'm scared. I can feel a lot of sarcasm coming from him. I'm talking about Mr. Moon. But, he's like, man, I'm going to these places and I'm kind of worried, something's going to happen. And I'm like, you're too hard to be scared, but, I don't know. When it comes to your house, you kind of approach things, or I do. I approach things differently than I do out in the field. Do you do the same, or how do you deal with things that do come into your home?
Me personally, I don't let them come into my home. I bless my home very often. I have a nonverbal autistic 4-year-old, and autistic kids are more sensitive to the paranormal.
Yeah, they're closer to the veil.
And I don't want my kids, to have to deal what Daddy has to deal with to help people. Because that's what I came in this field to do. I didn't come for the thrills and the chills. I came to help everybody in the United States that I can get to.
Well, mine started out pretty small. There was, oh my gosh, what was the first one that I used to watch with, oh my goodness, I'm totally having a major brain fart. All the timers. Paranormal State. That was the very first show that I saw on TV that made me feel like not such a weirdo, because they're actually out there doing this. And a lot of times when I shared my experiences, people would shun me or say I'm weird and don't play with her, she's a weirdo, and stuff like that. And even like some family members, what makes you think God's going to protect you when you're communing with the devil? Stupid stuff like that. That, I don't know.
You would have been my best friend.
Yes, we would have been the bestest of friends.
We would have been on the playground playing hopscotch together.
That's right.
To your question, do you treat that any differently in your home than you would out on an investigation? I'd have to say no. It's kind of like, if your car breaks down, if you're a mechanic and your car breaks down, would you work on that any differently than you would a customer's car? You're going to change the starter in a car, the same way, no matter which car it is. And it's kind of the same way. You would treat it just the same because you're dealing with a spirit in your home just the same as you would anywhere else. So you would want to treat that, and you certainly wouldn't want to treat your home any differently or your client any differently than you would your home. You see what I'm saying?
Yep.
And I tend to agree with Eldon on that one. If I allowed him into my home, I would be more cautious because my children are there, but I would have to treat it like any other investigation, find out what it is, what they want, who it is, and help them either cross over, or if it's not a spirit, find a way to get rid of it.
Okay, so what I'm trying to say is when I go out and do an investigation, I'll break out all the tools that I have, because there is a fast and furious thing. Here I'm dealing with it all hours of the day, right? So I have more experience with it. With the investigation, I have to get through it quickly to figure out what's going on and what this is, and compile all the personal experiences as well as scientific information that's coming through, humidity, all kinds of different things happening. Taking everything from all the tools I'm using there to come up with a collaborative thing as far as, okay, this is what we think we're dealing with, and this is the steps we should take. But when it comes to my house, I don't want to amp it up to figure it out really fast. I kind of want to take it gentle because, like I said, if it's a peaceful spirit or whatever, I'll do more than if it's an angry spirit. Like I had one in my hallway for the longest time that would punch the walls. He would go up and down the hall and he'd punch the walls, and he'd stand in front of my door, and I could see him. He was very tall. I could see him above my door frame and below. So I did not want to antagonize him because he attacked my animals. My dog Gilly, he stuffed her in the toilet. And my daughter Nova and my nephew Joe, who was in my care at the time, were both trying to, at the same time, pull her out. And she only weighs about 40 pounds. But they could not pull her out of the toilet until finally whatever it was released her from trying to drown her in the toilet, and they all flew across the bathroom, and I think Gilly landed in the bathtub. But that was really scary. If they're going to attack my kids or my dogs, then they could attack my kids. So that's why, like, sometimes I'll take it, more neutral and take different steps instead of amping it up, because I think when you produce a lot of different equipment or whatnot to investigate, it could cause certain amperage or issues. It could propel, like you do in an investigation, to figure it out instead of, taking baby steps because you do have kids.
I mean, in that aspect, if it's in your home, you have more time, you have more patience to figure out what you're dealing with. I mean, if you've got a spirit that's, trying to drown your dog, which naughty spirit, you're absolutely right. That spirit has the potential to harm your kids, and that's very alarming. I mean, that's a horrible thought, so to me, that would be the spirit I would want to figure out how to get rid of with a quickness.
Something else you got to also keep in mind, when, there's certain types of investigations out there in different types. All right. You've got your investigations, you go to a abandoned location, you're there for a night, or, you get into this asylum or wherever, you're there for a night because that's either what you pay for or they allow you to. But when you're getting called in with a client and you're going into their home to investigate, especially with us, we let them know right off that usually in one night of investigating, it's not going to get to the root of your problem. You'll need to go back a few times if necessary. This is something that's kind of drawn out. And doing those residentials, you find that you have to be there an X amount of, time in order to develop what's really going on and get to the root of it so that you can help get to a resolve to their situation.
Right.
So I think with the residentials, I don't think that would be any different than dealing with your own home, because you are taking your time with that. You are being cautious with it. You're not developing or introducing a lot of equipment at one time. You're trying to get to what's happening, just like you would in your own home. Now, if I go to, the jail down the road, and I don't know, most places want to charge you money to get in there. Well, I'm going to put up that $100 or $200 to get in there for the 4 or 6 hours that they're going to allow me. Well, yes, now I'm going to crack out my entire arsenal to see what I can get in the shortest amount of time possible. You see what I'm saying? So
yes.
that in that aspect, you're right. I mean, there would be a little bit of a difference on how you approach it, but that again, you're talking a different type of investigation involved there.
Yeah, definitely. I don't know. When it comes to my family, I'm more scared. When it comes to clientele, I'm more confident. So I don't know, because I have to take precautions. So I think that's where my kind of mute button or whatever is, where I have to like rethink things. How do I do this? How do I calibrate like what this entity or spirit or whatever wants or needs? It was funny. When we first moved in, didn't have activity for the longest time, and then I got ready for work one day, and as I was leaving, I heard a man coughing in my bedroom. My bedroom's right by the front gate, and I was like, who the hell is in my house? I was so freaked out, and I'm like, I'm so glad I'm going to work right now, because I was the only one at home at that point. Come to find out, it was a man that had died there from emphysema. So that was interesting, and he's a really nice guy, and it's funny, I didn't even know his name, but I was like, I think his name is John. I'm just going to call him John. John, could you quit scaring the kids? John, could you be more quiet at night or whatever? Several of my kids have seen him, but after that, it kind of amped up the longer we were here. We've been here now for about almost 17 years. And when my neighbors moved, I was like, have you guys ever had any activity over here? And they're like, no, not really. A few occasional things. But why do you ask? And I'm like, well, I told them about the sort of activity we have here. And she's like, well, haven't you ever visited the museum? And I'm like, no, I've walked by it several times, never went in there. And she said, our property is on a battlefield between, I believe it was the Spaniards and the natives at the time, which I believe were Utes. So yeah, there was a lot of craziness that happened here and a lot of things after that happened. It's pretty intriguing that things can sit there and stay with the property. Doesn't matter when your house was built, you could still be haunted.
Oh, most definitely, especially with a battlefield of any kind, or bloodshed. It's no longer the house that's haunted, it's the actual grounds. Them spirits can go from house to house to house and still think they're in the battlefield and they're ready for action. And that's just one of the most phenomenal things about the paranormal world is, you have your residual, which happens at the same time every night, every hour, whenever it happens. And then you have your residual, which is, I just got those backwards. Anywho.
Yeah.
You have your...
I'm picking up what you're saying.
You have your regular hauntings, which, like in your case, the battlefield, that the soldiers are walking up and down the field, they're preparing to fight anybody they see. And it can either A, be friendly or B, be malicious. And that's just something, you're not going to know what's going to happen until it happens.
Yeah, there's been some pretty creepy stuff here. Mostly shadow people. we had a friend of my husband's living here for a while. He was the drummer of the band. His name was Brian. And for a while, he made his home out in the garage. Not too long after that, he moved into the house because he's like, fuck a whole bunch of this. I guess he saw, and this would not be residual, this would be more intelligent or something that's here and now, something climb up the side of the neighbor's house and on top of it, which kind of creeped me out because I hear creaking on top of my roof sometimes, and I'm like, there's nothing that big on my roof right now, like what the crack is that? Kind of trips me out. But yeah, there's intelligent and there's residual. There's spirits that are here right now that can communicate with you. They're intelligent. They know what questions you're asking. They know how to communicate through whatever equipment you're using or telepathically. And then there's residual, like you said, that replay or absorbed in the wood or the concrete or rocks or whatever you have, or the land that you're on. It's so crazy, but exciting. I love it.
Intelligent. That's the word I was looking for before my brain fart happened. Thank you.
You're welcome.
It's a very, 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 very interesting field. I can tell you that. You come across so many things, and you really do have to take some sort of expertise to try to drive to what's going on, This is why I suggest, especially anybody new coming into the field that hasn't done it before, go under the wing of somebody that's been at this a while, that knows what they're doing. Don't just go stop and order your equipment and call yourself an investigator. You can hurt yourself.
Yeah.
You can hurt people around you that way. Always mentor under somebody else to help you get that experience, so you know what you're looking for, you know what the dangers look like, and you know what to do in those situations, not only for yourself, but for your team and your clients. Because you can really get hurt in this stuff,
Or hurt somebody, yes. It's very scary.
Absolutely.
And people take it lightly. Oh, I saw this on TV, so I'm going to try this.
Right?
Don't try this at home, kids.
Where most people would watch the shows, like the documentaries on Ed and Lorraine Warren, their investigations, Jason Hawes and all that, where people would watch them, I would spend hours of studying. I would be taking notes. I mean, I had 5-6 notebooks full of what to do in this situation, what to do in that situation. And, that's when I decided to form my team. I had 3 of my closest friends with me that were there with me. We went through all the notebooks together, and that's when we started the Spokane Ghost Crew. And our first investigation, we had no equipment whatsoever. We had 3 flip phones that could take pictures and could record in increments of 10 minutes apiece. And man, we caught so many Class A EVPs in this residence.
Mm-hmm.
I got called out by my nickname.
Wow, Bubba.
I was pinned down to the floor. I was physically attacked twice in this house. Teddy bears thrown, roses destroyed. I mean, this house was angry.
Monster house.
We found out before we cleaned it, it had several spirits that were trapped in there by a portal that had an actual very powerful gatekeeper in front of that portal, which allowed them to come in, but didn't allow them to come back out. And all the fighting in the house between the husband and the wife, it just fueled the fire, and the little girl paid the price for this.
Yeah.
She was getting yanked out of bed. She was getting her hair pulled.
She was the one that was not able to defend herself as well as the others.
Exactly. And it was my honor and my privilege to be able to walk into that house after it was cleaned and said, "Congratulations, your house is now clean.
This house
you guys
is clear."
Can go about living."
Exactly what I was thinking. Yeah. This house is clear.
This house is clear.
And the funny thing is they quit fighting, had one big blowout fight, and the dude left 6 months later. They ended up losing the house.
Thank God.
And I went back there about a year later just to see if we did the job that I thought we did. And I knocked on the door, and I said, hey, I know you're going to think I'm crazy, but I'm a paranormal investigator. And we cleansed this house about a year ago. I want to know if there are any spirits in this house that are negative. And they're like, what are you talking about, dude? There's nothing in here. There's no problems whatsoever. This house is perfect in every way, shape, and form.
This house is clear. My job is done here. Have a good day.
Exactly. I walked away with a smile on my face, and I said, all right, who's next?
Get her done.
That's right. Get her done.
Yeah, that's, and that's the real dangers, though. It will eat you up from the inside out. It knows exactly where to attack you. When you get something that malevolent, it's going to attack you at your weakest. It'll start with the weakest person, because it's wanting that in. If they can get a toehold, it will.
Yeah. It's like grab a tiger by the toe or the tail.
Exactly. That's exactly right, So
as far as your
it's really
guys...
dangerous.
Yeah, it is. It is. And a lot of people, like we said earlier, take it lightly. And this is no big deal. I saw this on TV. Oh my gosh, I can hear myself. I hate that. Turn down the speaker, whoever turned it up.
Who's doing that?
I don't know. There's an echo. I hate to hear my own voice. Where was I? That totally blew my mind.
Yeah, we were wrapping up about how dangerous this particular field can get.
Yeah.
For the most part, and I'll be honest with you, for the most part, you're okay, but you have that chance of encountering something that, means you harm, and if it does attach itself to you, you could have some serious problems.
Yeah. So one of my other rules is never go on an investigation alone. Yes, Frank from Franco TV, he does it a lot. And that guy, he's pretty brave. But not only is it scary going alone, but you really put yourself in danger. And generally...
Just so you can...
Go ahead.
Just so you can keep in mind, brave means brave. Brave doesn't always mean smart.
That's right. Yeah, it's pretty creepy what can happen to you. So I had a clearing that I had to do for this woman. She's about to have a baby. Her house is infected with something. She lives right in the backyard of a Catholic church. And she's like, can you come and help me? And I do want to buy one of your cleansing kits. That's how we were getting any sort of funds for all I pay for our group. And so I went up there by myself, showed her how to cleanse her house. First, I showed her the kit, showed her as I went step by step how to use it, because she is the one who needs to empower herself or show her husband how, because that is their house. They need to put their foot down. But this is how you do it. Went through, saged everywhere, like in the closets, drawers, under beds, like every little nook and cranny and crevice you can get, sage it. I like to finish off with Palo Santo, because not only does it help with portals and such, but it makes the air smell better. I don't know. I love the smell of sage and Palo Santo, but some people really, really don't. My husband being one.
Since you kind of go through all that and you teach people how to do that, so can you explain the window open while you're doing that? While you're cleansing a house with the sage and stuff?
People do it differently. Like me, I like to totally smoke out the house and then open a front door or open a window. Some people say leave the window open the whole time, maybe so stuff doesn't build up and cause a big ruckus, but I've never had that issue. I like to smoke out the whole house so it fills the whole place, every nook and cranny and crevice whatsoever.
Now, a couple medium cleansers that I've dealt with here, what they say is leave a window open while you do that, not necessarily to air it back out so you can breathe, but you have to give the spirit a place to go.
Yeah, I like to wait till there's nowhere else to go but out. Because I feel like if you leave that opening during the time you're doing this, there's places they can hide. Yeah, there's places they can hide. So smoke it all out, then open a door to let them out, and then open other windows to get all the smoke out and such. Whatever you need to do. But that's how I feel. That's where I feel it's safe. But other people, like you said, mediums and other people have said, oh no, you got to open this window or blah, blah, blah. I don't agree with that. I think you need to smoke it out completely and then open a portal for them to leave.
You know, and the same thing applies to paranormal investigating. You know, there are so many different opinions, you know, and so many techniques that are out there. You know, I don't, and you can't say what's right or wrong because we really honestly don't know, you know. And, you know, that's what makes this so intriguing, you know. We had spoken with Chris McKinnell, which is the grandson of Ed and Lorraine Warren. Just the other night, he was on our podcast.
Nice.
And, you know, he said something that was really, really important for the community to understand. You know, each one of us in our ventures of investigating, we hold pieces of the puzzle. We each have a piece of that puzzle. And when we all come together and put those pieces together, it completes a big picture.
It really does. That's why I like how diverse my group is, because we were all raised differently.
Correct. And when you have paranormal teams out there that hold that piece of the puzzle, they may not even know they're holding that piece, but they are. But when they're not willing to share that with the community, well, that's the one piece that could be missing. You know, so it's really important, like the scientists out there, you know, that they share their technology so that they can get technology advanced.
Yeah, so they can look at it in different ways.
That's right. They have learned to be able to share their technology, share their ideas, to come out with more technology. That's something that we fall short with still in this particular field. We have a lot of teams, a lot of investigators that, no, that's my evidence. I don't want to get it out there, you know.
That's ridiculous. And that's ego.
Exactly. You know, that's exactly right. So, you know, yes, you have the ghost hunter versus the paranormal investigator. And they are two different things, you know. And
now things are clearer. Thank you for clarifying, because I've never heard it put that way. So now it makes sense to me.
The thing is a ghost hunter will find a ghost. All right? A paranormal investigator looks for the truth.
Right.
Okay? If
collects
you're out
evidence.
there and you're collecting the truth, whether it's evidence towards the paranormal or evidence against it. It works both ways. Just like a scientist looks at cause and effect, what works, what doesn't work. And as an investigator, that's exactly what you're doing. You're not trying to prove the existence of the paranormal. You're trying to get to the truth of what is out there. That's the difference. It's easy because a lot of people that don't know that, they say, well, what do you do? Well, I'm a paranormal investigator. Well, what's that? Well, then you kind of got to roll your eyes a minute and go, well, it's a ghost hunter. Oh, okay, I know what that is. You know? And there you go. It's easier, you know, I guess, you know, put that way because they understand that. But it's kind of like if I was to tell you, you know, hey, I live in Maricopa, Arizona, you're like, well, where's that? Well, I live in Phoenix. Oh, okay, I know where that's at, you know. It's kind of the same thing, you know. They don't understand the concept between the two, but there's a very, very big difference between the two.
There is, and I'm glad you clarified it that way, because I'm like, there is a difference, but I never was able to put it into that verbiage, so that's awesome. Thank you so much, Eldon. That was awesome.
Hey, absolutely. Absolutely.
My mind is growing. So when you guys first started out investigating, did you start with tools? Or if you did not, what was the very first tool that you incorporated into your entourage of tools?
So Brian said he started out with flip phones. And, you know, I feel his pain because when I started out, I'd started out, there was actually a clearance sale at Walgreens, and I bought a little audio recorder for $8.
Nice.
And I still have that recorder today. It's an awesome little recorder, and it's my favorite recorder. And I had a flashlight. I went and got a little flashlight. I think it was like a 9 or 10 LED little push-button flashlight that I got. And for my EMF meters, I went to Walmart, and I actually bought those little plastic clear compasses for my EMF meters. And that's what I
the ones you
started
get
with.
in the camping center for
That's
like
right.
so many
go
per...
to the camping section. Exactly. They got the little yellow string on it.
Oh,
Yep.
yeah. That way
Yep,
if you
that was
drop
my-
it, you can find it.
That was my EMF meter. That's what I started out with.
Wow.
Now I tell, new investigators coming out, if they don't have any tools, that your cell phone is probably the best tool you can have. It has your audio recorder, it has your video recorder, and you can take pictures with it. And depending on your phone, it may have a bright enough flashlight on it too. Unless you got a phone like mine, mine's not very bright. So of course I can get a bigger flashlight. But
yours isn't really
cell
bright.
phone-
It's not a smartphone. I'm just kidding.
Right. Yeah, it's kind of a dumb phone. But but yeah, that's really the three key things that you need starting out as an investigator: a flashlight, a digital camera, and an audio recorder. That's what you should start out with. So, that would be my advice to anybody starting out. Don't go to GoStop and buy a K2 before you get a audio recorder. Or vice versa.
And a K2 meter,
can't-
when you look at the scale of different things you can buy, isn't too expensive. You can even go to the hardware store and find one or whatnot. But, those aren't the most expensive thing on the list. But they are pretty cool to have. Because even if you have the battery, the only time it pegs is when you turn it on. Because it's like connected to battery, ping, then it goes back to nothing. You either have a green the whole time or it starts to pick up on different things.
Yeah, it's a pretty neat little piece of equipment. You just got to remember when you're running your EMF meters to shut your cell phone off.
Yeah, or not hold it close to there, like have it on a stand or have it somewhere. So how did you use the compass? How did that work?
You use it basically, you got it in your hand, and literally when you actually get a reading on the compass, just like an EMF meter that starts going up, or your K2 meter would light all the way up to red. Your Mel meter, you'll see the numbers jump up. Well, what the compass does is it just starts spinning.
Yeah, the needle spins.
Spinning. Right, it'll start spinning.
Pegs.
Yep, or it'll start going back and forth. It'll start doing things that it shouldn't be doing, and you'll know immediately when it starts doing that stuff.
Ooh, that reminds me of field training when I was in boot camp. We came across a really spooky spot out there. We're like, what the hell is going on? Why is our compass doing this?
And that's kind of funny you say that, because when I was in boot camp and we were going through compass reading, my compass actually did that in a couple spots.
Yeah, they did. Where I was. I was in Paris Island in South Carolina.
Yeah, well, you were in the Marines. I was in the Army, so I went to Fort Jackson. So
I had two brothers that went through there too.
Yeah, so we were playing in the red sand over in the woods there, but it would pick up some interesting stuff, and interesting story. You say that, I had gotten myself in a little bit of trouble while I was there. I got a little mouthy, and you know how the DIs get to that. They love you for that. And the thing was I actually started laughing at them, me and a couple of the recruits, and of course they had to pick on me to find out what was so funny. And I told them, they wanted to know. Didn't know I should have kept my mouth shut, but I know better now. Let me tell you that. But they thought it would be cool that I pull a 48-hour dumpster guard.
Hell yeah!
And for those people that don't know what dumpster guard is, that is where you are in full battle dress with your M16 at port arms, and you are standing in that dumpster for 48 hours. And that's including KP help dumping the garbage in there, okay? It sucks. But, that second night that I was in that dumpster, okay, it was all quiet. The base is all real kind of died down. Everybody's sleeping. It's about 2 o'clock in the morning, or as we call it, 0200 hours. I'm getting tired. I'm getting wore down, and I can feel myself just starting to break apart, and I'm standing there, and I literally saw a troop of soldiers start coming through.
Oh my
now,
gosh.
these soldiers were wearing World War II attire because this was the area that was the old World War II barracks,
Mm-hmm.
and I recognized their attire. But the crazy thing was they were see-through.
Yeah,
And
they were transparent.
Let me tell you, exactly, you could see right through them. And if you've ever been in the military before, you know what it's like for an entire troop to come by you and just salute you. That is a complete honor right there. You see what I'm saying? And
Yes.
It kind of gives you that overwhelming feeling of energy boost. That gives you that motivation, you know? And that gave me the motivation I needed to make it through the rest of the night, through the next morning. And it was amazing.
Yeah, I got in trouble on Firewatch once because this captain came in and I didn't say, "Halt, who goes there?" because I was trying to decipher if she was a ghost or not. And then she came up and she's like, "You were sleeping on the job." "Yes, I'm holding this book up right in front of my face, looking at it, and then I put it down, and I'm looking at you intently because I was asleep." "No, I was trying to decipher on if you're a ghost or if you weren't." "Yes, I should have just said, 'Halt, who goes there?' and woke everybody up," but I didn't because I know how much sleep means in that field.
I'm laughing.
Yeah.
I'm laughing because I really thought you said you got in trouble for falling asleep, because that is a big thing on fire guard. Don't get caught sleeping.
Yeah, she thought I was, and I was like, "No, I saw you as soon as you came through the door, and I'm watching you to see what you're doing, and I'm trying to figure out if you're a ghost or if you're an actual human being." I should have automatically said, "Halt, who goes there?" as soon as you came through the door, but I was trying to figure it out before I woke everyone up, because sleep is important. But on that note, you guys, we do have to go to our first music break.
All right.
So on this break, we have King Cinnamon from Biafra, Nigeria. He's going to be singing Ale Imo Ederella, as well as Fantastique. And then we have Hosni Bronx, who originally hails from Jamaica, but also goes to the Bronx of New York. He's kind of back and forth like a snowbird. And he's going to be singing Dance as a Lion. This break is about 14 minutes and 25 seconds. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break.
We swap on speed.
Kanyi kele Chineke makwa n'ala Imo bụ ndị njem ọnụ. Kanyi kele onye nwụwa ịmakwa n'ala Imo bụ ndị njem ọnụ. Imo, Alime Kerelo, Alimo, Alime Kerelo, Alimo State, Alime Kerelo, Alimo, Alime Kerelo, Alimo State, Alime Kerelo, Alimo, Alime Kerelo, Democracy Kerelo, Ndime Merielo, Alimo, Alime Kerelo, Alimo, Alime Kerelo, Alimo State, Alime Kerelo, Alimo, Alime Kerelo, Democracy Merielo, Ndime Merielo, Elegamo, making head ya, Ebere Marama, Opa Marama, Yes Lady Marama, Her Excellency, Emeka your hammer, Emeka hit your hammer, Omenka Unanya need your hammer, Omenka Unanya one, Emeka, make him body mouth, Emeka, body mouth, Emeka put on no boy. Oh yeah. Wa wulenu. Emeka put on no boy. Walk on my dimma. We me wan posto. Emeka make him body mouth. Emeka make him body mouth. Ndem jejemba. Mwan jejemba. Ndem jemano. Deputy Governor Imo State Chilike. Gerard Ronna Karaka, Wokoma Dima, Warabo, Deputy Governor, Deregima, Alukuta Deregima, Alimo State Deregima, Ala Nigeria Maragima, Onya Jemono, Stanley Wamuche Karaka, Stanley Onya Babamba, President Good Life Foundation, Shirike, President General, Senate Group of Companies, President General, Financial Matter Karaka, Alo Were Diregima, Alambise Diregima, Alimo State Diregima, Ala Nigeria Maragima, Onya Jemono, Franklin Neji Shiriko, Meme Arabido Hotels, ABC Transport Karaka, Alo were dere gima, Alampise dere gima, Alimo State dere gima, Ala Nigeria mara gima o, Uchonya go chande, Uchonya go chande, Honorable Mokoma dima, Onye horo ni akeleli ya o, Mawugi ye, Ginando tugio, Mawunule, Njijigari jinala, Imo State yo, Mawugi ye, Ginando tugio, Mawunule, Minigari zonala, Imo State yo, Alo were dere gima, Alo were dere gima, Alimo State dere gima, Ala Nigeria mara gima, the German, Orange Drugs Limited, Jisa Anthony Ifani Chubuntu Business na Ishirike, Ikenga Ndichele, pride of his people, most outstanding one, Okoma Marama, Iborabo, Alo were dere gima, Alija dere gima, Alimo State dere gima, Ala Nigeria mara gima, Honorable Jogwagu Shirike, Honorable Bina Shirike, Jere Labosa Shirike, Tochukwa Kereke Shirike, Okahu Be Shirike, Injina Benina Shirike, Onyamana Construction, Woko Madema Ikaraka, Onya Shiwore Heborani, Etemu Imarama, Woko Mande Jemba, Woko Madema Ikaraka, Wiz Popule, Ibo Felamo, Onyamana Pito, Akana Kumpa, Ikaraka, Eziwa Mama, Mr. Ludiriwa, Woko Meje Jemba, CEO Elizabeth Ventures, Ikaraka, Democracy Merielo, Ndime Merielo, Democracy Merielo, Ndime Merielo, Alime Gerelo, Alime Gerelo. Thank God I'm from Imo State. Emeka has come to rejuvenate. Imo State, make you jubilate, make you celebrate. Emeka Shikwen be say, this one no be say them say. Emeka has come to rejuvenate. Imo State, celebrate, make you jubilate. Ala mekele His Excellency Achikudenwa. Mekele kwa His Excellency Dr. Hakim. Yemaka Right Honorable BDK. Mekele kwa Right Honorable Jones Oyereri. Ala mekele Senator Onyebuchi Mr. Empowerment. Mekele kwa Right Honorable Emeka Chinedu. Umo mimo lowali bia meziena alimo. Alima Dilama.
Cliffito.
In this
We swap on the beat.
She like my water bam bam. King cinnamon. Oh shit, baddest. Take your bam bam anywhere you day. Know your bam bam, it is a Friday. Come on, let's go, it is a holiday. Anything you want, baby, I will pay. Take your bam bam anywhere you day. Know your bam bam, it is a Friday. Come on, let's go, it is a holiday. Anything you want, baby, I will pay. Fantastic. Baby girl, you romantic. Fantastic. Baby girl, you romantic. Gucci brother, baby, gather something. Come on closer, baby, gather 19. I know you better, but I am the king. Your backside bigger than Bombay. Baby girl, broncotum. I like the way you whine your broncotum. Baby girl, broncotum. I like the way you whine your broncotum. Jamaica, Ghana. Shout out to the ladies in Asia, Nigeria, South Africa. Say me love you. Please me, baby. Yeah. Turn up from you. Take your bam bam anywhere you day. Know your bam bam, it is a Friday. Come on, let's go, it is a holiday. Anything you want, baby, I will pay. Take your bam bam anywhere you day. Know your bam bam, it is a Friday. Come on, let's go, it is a holiday. Anything you want, baby, I will pay. Fantastic. Baby girl, you romantic. Give me love. Me want you, me love you. Give me love. Oh, give me love. Hey, please me, baby. Oh. Yeah, turn up from you. Yeah, take your bam bam anywhere you day. Know your bam bam, it is a Friday. Come on, let's go, it is a holiday. Anything you want, baby, I will pay. Shake your bam bam anywhere you day. Know your bam bam, it is a Friday. Come on, let's go, it is a holiday. Anything you want, baby, I will pay. Fantastic. Baby girl, you romantic. Fantastic. Baby girl, you romantic.
Welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us this evening on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. This evening, we are joined by Eldon McInville as well as Brian James. You guys, welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us this evening and hanging out.
It is fabulous to be here, Tessa. Thank you very much.
Most definitely. Thank you for having us.
I'm so glad I found you guys by accident and that you responded.
Right?
Oh, I have a funny story I could tell if you don't mind.
No, feel free.
You know, unlike you guys, which, by the way, thank you for your service, I was never able to get into the military. But what I did do is I fulfilled a lifelong dream that I had ever since I was a day old. And that was I became a professional wrestler for about a year and a half.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah. And my first professional wrestling match came in Sterling, North Dakota. They had to take the ceiling fan off so that I could stand straight up in the bar. because I am 6'5" and 375 pounds.
Holy shit-tards.
And I wrestled a guy by the name of Rock and Roll Buck Zumoff.
That name sounds familiar.
You might have heard from him in the wrestling circuit. You might have heard from him from his imprisonment. My personal opinion, he can rot where he is, but we won't get into that. But, after living that, I came up into the Spokane area, back home from Fargo, North Dakota, and I joined in the backyard wrestling scene, where I know people are going to cringe at me when I say this, but I loved getting hit with the barbed wire. I loved getting my head split open with the barbed wire. It was just the most fantastic feeling to hear the crowd just go nuts. And then they moved from backyard to a ring, and I was training in the ring until I unfortunately messed my back up beyond repair. So I was writing a book, I was ghost hunting, paranormal investigating, sorry, Eldon. And I was doing professional wrestling all at the same time.
That's awesome. I know a couple guys that do that. Vinny, and then, oh my gosh, I'm having another brain fart. Luke, Big Luke. Those guys are also wrestlers in the Tennessee and, that region of the country. And they also do ghost hunting, and they call it wrestling with ghosts. So that's awesome that you were doing that too.
I have to make sure I heard Brian correctly in this, and I don't know that I did or not, but it almost sounded to me like Brian said that he used to wrestle and get hit with barbed wire, and he enjoyed that. Is that correct, Brian?
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I very much enjoyed getting hit with barbed wire.
I don't know that your type of entertainment is anything conventional, brother. That just doesn't sound like a whole lot of fun to me,
Sounds like the Greek old days. I've heard about the chair, but never really barbed wire.
Well, the closest thing I came to that, I went to a concert with, I went to go see Metallica in concert. I was 18 years old. And, they had this place called the Mosh Pit.
Yes.
And I had to get into that mosh pit, and that is where you take your head and you beat the hell out of your best friend next to you.
And you throw your body around too, yeah.
You do all kinds of things. I come home and I had black eyes, my forehead was knotted up, my lips were busted up, and my dad come in the room or come in the house, and my dad goes, "Damn, boy, what happened to you?" I said, "Well, Dad," I said, "I was in the mosh pit. I had a wonderful time."
It was Metallica.
I had a blast, and he looked at me, he goes, "With fun like that," he goes, "I don't know about you, kid." So I think that's probably the closest I've ever had of having fun getting the hell beat out of me,
Yeah.
Let me tell you what, I used to go to so many concerts here in Spokane, the local bands from the Northwest, and there's nothing more better than getting into a good old-fashioned mosh pit.
I've never been in one, but I can imagine. Did you guys see that video of that guy, and he was in a mosh pit, and then the mosh pit kind of cleared up? So I think it was an outdoor sort of arena, and you could see grass and dirt, and the crowded part, and this guy comes through, and he starts like running at a raging speed, and he's bashing his head around, and all of a sudden something clotheslines him. There was nothing there to clothesline him, but you could tell, like, he was stopped dead in his tracks and bounced back a little bit. And he's like, "What the hell?" And then he got up and tried to go again, and he started running again, and it looked like he got clocked in the face and pushed back again. And then after that, he, like, shook his head and tried to get up again and was like, "I'm not going that direction. I'll go back this way." But it seemed like there was some sort of spirit or something there that didn't want him to have all the mosh and fun that he was having. It's like, "Nope, stop you there with this clothesline," and then, "Nope, I'm going to uppercut you." It was crazy.
That one.
Yeah, it was on Paranormal Caught on Camera.
Huh.
one of the best parts of a mosh pit is called the Wave of Doom. Now, you can only do this in huge arenas or outdoor venues, but you get two sides, and all of a sudden, each side just comes barreling towards each other, and you just run and tuck your shoulder. And
it's like
pray
Red
to
Rover,
God
but worse.
Nobody throws up a high knee.
Wow.
But you touched on a steel chair, and you know that's a really funny part, because my favorite part of the barbed wire was actually a steel chair wrapped in barbed wire, and having somebody DDT me, which is where you take their head and you're facing the opposite way, and you just drop down.
Oh,
They
yeah.
would drop
Dead
me
drop.
on that chair,
Mm.
and I would purposely bounce my head off of it. And if I couldn't get myself to bleed, I would tell them to stay there, and I would just grate my forehead real quick across that barbed wire.
Ew.
You know, man, I didn't realize I was going to need some kind of dose of, like, ibuprofen for this thing, dude.
Yeah,
You're
you're making
giving
him
me a
hurt.
headache just
He's like
listening. Holy
empathic.
cow.
You're hurting his fillers.
Good lordy, man.
No, he's just got great security.
Oh, there we go again. Here, see, there he goes. Hear him, right?
Yep.
Okay.
And for everybody listening, if you ever want to get Eldon's goat, just ask him the question, do you know you're dead?
Don't do that. Don't
That
do
is-
that to me.
One of the last questions I'll ever ask, because what a traumatic question. Do you know you're dead? Because sometimes they don't, and then they're like, what?
You don't want to be the guy that delivers the bad news, okay? You really don't want to do that.
That's when you want to do a Baggins and throw somebody else under the bus.
That's right. Yeah, bad move. Don't ever do that.
No,
Dude, we're
so
gonna start
unprofessional.
calling that Baggins. We're going to call that the Baggins movement.
The Baggins move.
I like it.
It's sad but true. Like, poor Aaron, man. He's my favorite. And
Mine too. I like Aaron. He's pretty cool.
yeah, I like him because I know he's being honest. I know he's actually picking up on this stuff. And then Aaron will say something, then Mr. Baggins is like, oh, yeah, I was actually feeling that, and holy shit, I'm going to go into this downward spiral now. Just for the attention. Attention horror alert.
What's really comical about it, when you watch the show, Aaron portrays that he don't like to go in these places by himself and everything.
No,
However,
he doesn't want to. He's like, no, please, no.
In reality, he loves that stuff.
He does, but at the same time...
Yeah, he enjoys it.
Yeah, like so for me, I grew up with this stuff, and I have what I call paranormal PTSD, so my bedtime's like 4:30, maybe 6:30 in the morning. I'll finally go to bed, but it's because I grew up anticipating that activity because it happens so often, it's going to happen again, and you wait for it instead of being surprised by it, because that's more traumatic, and then you get into this craziness. But yeah, paranormal PTSD is what I call that.
Wow. Yeah, that's pretty crazy. So, Brian, I got a question for you.
What's that, buddy?
Hey, how about them Broncos, bro?
Oh, no. The Denver Donkeys. I live in Colorado. I have most of my life, and I call them the Denver Donkeys because, in honor of John Smellway.
Well, you're in good company there with Brian because they got the Seattle Sea Chickens over there. So
that's what I call
him. I'm not a fan of either or. I'm a Cowboys fan.
Oh my!
I'm trying to get Rick to get rid of that dang hat that he's got. That Sea Chickens hat. Every time I see this poor guy, he's got a Sea Chickens hat on. I'm like, why you got to cuss at me every time I see you?
Yeah, that's what I call him. When I was working at Walmart at the portrait studio, there's this cart guy that still works there, and he was a major Seahawks fan, and at the time I was a Steelers fan because of my daddy. When I was a teenager, I was a Cowboys fan, but I grew out of that. So then went on to the Steelers, and he's like, yeah, Seahawks are totally going to kick the Raiders' ass. And I'm like, nope, I'm going to go out there, I'm going to feed those sea chickens all kinds of rice, and then they're going to puff up, and they're going to blow. They're going to blow, and they ain't going to win shit, because they're going to be like little feathers and body parts everywhere. I'm sorry, that's demented, but not as bad as the barbed wire. But yeah, we'd like give each other shit about our football teams and stuff. But yeah, I'm not a major fan. And it's funny, in 1999, I won all kinds of football things as far as like choosing which teams win, which teams lose, what is the points differential, and all this other crap. Totally won it that year. I wasn't a footballs fan, but yeah, it's good for napping too, I feel. I think it's the monogamous talk and the cheer of the crowd and all this other stuff. It's kind of like white noise in a sense. It's good for napping.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
So you're Cowboys. What are you, Eldon?
You know, that's a very good question you asked. You know, there's a story to that. You know, I'm originally from Chicago, Illinois, so I'm, you know, my first love and sight is the Bears. You know, I've spent a lot of time at the old Soldier Field, and you know, had a lot of good times there. You know, as a kid growing up, you know, watching the Fridge and Walter Payton and all those old guys playing. So you know, now of course I'm telling my age now. You know,
I'm still curious. I still haven't figured it out.
You know, it was a wonderful thing. You know, and when they won the Super Bowl in '85, and I'll say that, yeah, it's been 36 years. You know,
the Bears.
You know, but no, I'm a Bears fan, you know, to start with. But you know, whenever I actually became a Chargers fan,
that's
and the
my
reason
mom.
I did that,
my adopted
the
mom
reason
is
I became a
Chargers
fan is, you know, my brother-in-law, he was a Raiders fan, and his brother-in-law was a Broncos fan. But one of my brother-in-law's good friends was a Kansas City Chiefs fan.
Mm-hmm.
And so here we've got everybody in the AFC West represented except for the Chargers. And they look at me and they go, who are you going to go for this year? I'm like,
underdog.
All right, screw it. I'll take the underdog. I'll go with the Chargers.
Yeah, that's me.
And they've just kind of stuck with me ever since. It was like when, you know, in 2003 when Tampa Bay went against the Raiders, you know. The first time Tampa had ever been to the Super Bowl, ever, and going against the Raiders, you know. And they're like, well, who are you going for this year? I'm like, well, I'm certainly not going for the Raiders. I have to go for the underdog. I love to do that. So I'm going to go for Tampa. And let me tell you, this was not even a game. It was funny because my brother-in-law, he's a Raiders fan, and the next day I saw him. I said, you know, Joe, I says, where in the heck was the Raiders during that game last night? He goes, what are you talking about? I said, that wasn't the Raiders. That was Lamar High School out there, bro. And boy, he turned as red as
words.
Oh, yeah, he turned red as a tomato. I'm like, they got their butts whooped. And you can go back and look at that. Look at the Super Bowl for that year, and you'll see what the score was. It wasn't even a game.
Yeah, like you said about
they took it.
Yeah, the underdogs, the year that New Orleans won, who dat? They were the underdogs, so I'm like, yeah, that's my team, totally. I'm going for those guys. But yeah, my mom, my adopted mom, she's a Chargers fan, and my dad, before he passed, was a Steelers fan, and so once he passed, like, I picked up his team because the Cowboys suck, and I hate the Denver Donkeys, so yeah, I'll be a Steelers fan. Unless there's another underdog for the Super Bowl or whatever. That's generally the only game I'll watch because of the commercials, for sure.
Yeah,
hey, those
are
Cowboys right there, ladies. Cowboys suck. What's wrong with you?
Yeah. Yeah, I grew out of that in my teens. And they've sucked ever since.
Yeah, I kind of grew out of it as well. And then left, and then Smith and Michael Irving. Yeah,
Michael Irvin, all those guys, they were epic, and then they retired, and there's like, no more Cowboys.
You know, guys, we probably should stop knocking football teams. You know,
but it's so much fun. Okay, let's move on. What should we talk about? Okay, so I was talking about that investigation I did up the road by myself, didn't pick up on anything, got home. As soon as I took off my clothes, I had a protective stone in my pocket. That's the only thing I really did, because usually when I pull up to a place, I'll pick up on something. Like, I can feel the energy in there. Didn't feel anything, felt safe, walked her through all the steps. As soon as I took my pants off and put my pajamas on, about 30 minutes later, this thing took hold of me and broke my very expensive camera, verbally assaulted my husband. I woke up behind the wheel of my car, no clothes on, heading towards the reservation. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on right now? I need to go home. I need to go home right now. So I turned around, went back home, came home. The family's locked in the master bedroom. So I put my pajamas back on and went to bed. And the next day, instead of my husband waking me up being pissed, he was genuinely concerned. Like, are you okay? I know that wasn't you. I could tell because your voice, your facial structure, all this other shit changed. And you said so much stuff you never would. I think that entity up there was pissed off for what I did. And I was alone, so I didn't really have protection, except for that stone. And once I took it off, it was no longer protecting me. But yeah, it never
really
showed up again. But yeah, it was creepy, crazy. So I've never gone again alone.
That really reinforces that going alone theory. You know, it enforces that. It also reinforces the fact that it can be dangerous and it can harm your family. Your family doesn't have to be on these investigations to be hurt by what you're going into. If they attach to you and you take it home, they now can fall victim very easily.
Okay, so I take it back. This thing tried to attach to me one other time. A little while after that, my husband and I were having a conversation. He could see the change starting to happen. And so he took me out of the front door. And as soon as I got out of the front gate, I could feel it going off of me. And I was like, I remember it pulling my head back towards the yard. Like it wanted me to go back to ignore him. But I was able to pull my head back in position and follow him. And the further away from the yard I got, the better I felt. So it was like encompassing that area. I don't know, it was really creepy, but after that I was like able to speak for myself. But at that point I could actually see from the driver's seat. I could see what was going on when this thing was taking hold of me. And it was very interesting to see because the first time I only see flashes of it where I was trying to come through, but I couldn't until I was far enough away from the house. But yeah, it was super crazy. And that was a rule of mine forever, but talking to this girl right up the road from me in the backyard of a Catholic church, like when I pulled up, I didn't feel anything. Had I would have called somebody, but I didn't because this thing was hiding pretty good, I think. But yeah, don't go alone, no matter how you feel or how confident you are. It's really not safe.
No, never go alone, no matter what.
And then
So Brian,
go ahead.
So Brian, you have this thing against some types of Mexican food, right?
What?
What's that, buddy?
I said you got this thing against Mexican food, don't you?
I hate all Mexican food besides carne asada and tortillas.
What? Well, you probably haven't had real Mexican food. You're all the way up there in Washington, lost in the abyss of the Spokane Mountains or whatever they're called. Rainier's pulling you in. Mexican food is far away.
Vegetables. I hate rice. I hate beans. I hate taco seasoning. I hate fajita seasoning. I hate it all.
You would be amazed. Okay, so my Aunt Karen, she dated a Mexican guy once, and he was a real Mexican. And he used to make these breakfast burritos with eggs, whatever meat, and potatoes, and some other vegetables in there. Yeah, and there was no rice whatsoever, and that's how he made his breakfast burritos. There was no rice. I think that's just a filler. Like we use French fries or hash browns or whatever else, country chopped potatoes or something. They use rice or sometimes French fries, whatever you ask for generally. But yeah, it's just a filler. Not really a Mexican staple.
Yep.
Well, you see me, I'm an old-fashioned meat, taters, and pasta guy.
What did I say earlier, Eldon? Freaking Viking, man.
Yeah.
It wouldn't surprise me.
Okay, so DNA tests, like, I did one for cancer. It was the 21andMe thing. Doesn't really tell you where you come from, but it tells you if you have any flags for cancer. And they said everything looked good, but there was an anomaly flag. Once we figure out what that is, we'll let you know. It's probably just my alien strand or something going on. I'm just kidding. But yeah, it's like, holy crap, where was it going?
Anomaly strand.
No, that was the last thing. Before I got to that one.
Okay.
Your alien DNA.
Well, I don't know. Like, there's so many people that are on different wavelengths. Okay, so there's a category that we refer to as sheeple. Those are people that don't look around, don't pay attention. They work their jobs. They believe what they're told, so on and so forth. There's those of us that are woke. And we realize, like, the different things coming through right now. And I don't know. I think 2012 was a big year for everything. I think, you know, everybody's like, oh, 2000 is a new realm, blah, blah, blah. Very dangerous. I think it was 2012 when everything kind of kicked off and has been progressing. Have you guys noticed, like, an upsweep in paranormal activity, UFO sightings, or abductions?
I have noticed that. I can't say that I've noticed that just since 2012. And I do have a theory behind that. However, it's just a theory. You know, we have all of these things going on technology-wise. You know, we're going into a K5 network, you know. We've got satellite signals going everywhere. We've got our cell phone signals going everywhere. And technology is vamping up. And the more that we, you know, energize our atmosphere, of course, we theorized that spirits and paranormal activity gets kicked off through energy, hence why we use EMF meters. And the more this energy vamps up in the atmosphere, it gives the anomalies a stronger wavelength to pick from out of the atmosphere when it comes to energy. That's my theory behind it when you're talking about the vamping up of paranormal activity.
You know, I gotta say I haven't really noticed a spike. I mean, I started my team in 2014, but you know, I have noticed that there have been a spike in alien activity. A lot more UFO sightings than usual. A lot more abductions. There's been more mutilation lately. And I think aliens coming down here pretty soon, personally. And hopefully I'm allowed to shake hands with one and take him to a bar and get him extremely drunk and find out the probing process. Not on me, of course, but just talk him through it.
It feels like, I don't know if they'd be able to realize the whole drinking situation. I think they get drunk a different way. I don't know how alcohol would affect them. But 2012 was big for me because my mom was the spiritual side of me. She could see, communicate with, and so on and so forth with spirits. She knew when she was going to die. I experienced things at an early age. My first one was I want to call it an elemental, because I saw another orb that was flaming but not outward flaming. That was an alien orb. This was an elemental. I saw my first apparition, so on and so forth. I don't know. I think that there was a different awakening for me. Like, it was not just the spiritual realm, but what my dad had always said. Like, he only had one ghost sighting. That was when he was with my mom. He saw a guy in coveralls going into the ceiling. Otherwise, it was alien, UFOs. And so I always believed. But it was 2012 when that came to pass. And then I was like, there's a lot more going on. And I actually have some really good pictures and videos and all kinds of stuff just from my backyard. It's insane how much activity is here. And people try to write it off as swamp gas or other stuff like that. I'm like, show me a swamp around here or whatever. Like, that was not swamp gas. Those were not swamp gas. Like, Have you guys had any UFO sightings like down there in the Phoenix area or up there in Washington?
Well, the biggest sighting that, is probably most famous down here in Phoenix are the
Phoenix
lights
lights
over Phoenix in 1997. Okay. This happened in May 1997. Of course, everybody down here saw these things, but, you've got your, higher officials that want to say, no, that didn't happen. That was just candles in the air, or that was flares or, whatever they want to claim,
Chinese
and
lanterns.
Here's the thing, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to figure out, and especially a lot of, my brothers and sisters that was in the military, they're not stupid to what flares are.
Mm-hmm.
We know exactly what that looks like, and no way, those aren't flares.
No.
But they'd like us to believe that it was, or whatever they want to claim, like the, 1947 hot air balloon in Roswell kind of thing,
Yeah.
We make all kinds of claims here. However, you go to, countries like Russia and all that, where, the government, they share all of that stuff with their public there. So, why do we have that as national security here? What's the big hype? What are they afraid of?
I don't think they do in Russia, because there's different videos that I'm watching from Russia that people are saying, oh, that was just like a military exercise or whatever they're trying to say it is. But
I think what they do is they pick and choose over there, but they're definitely more liberal with their information than we are to the public.
And I think as far as the History Channel goes with ancient aliens and such, I think they're trying to prep the sheeples or people that don't know about this stuff already, like the different stages, different sightings, different this and this and that and that, and then paranormal caught on camera. Holy shnikes, have you guys seen the freaking worms in the sky, like worm-shaped craft? I did get that on camera, not video, but camera, because video is not clear enough. It goes in and out. But with pictures, and it's going this way and that, and it's kind of technicolored. It's changing colors throughout underneath the full moon, and it was a lunar eclipse that night as well. And so I have that, and I never thought anything of it because I'm like, oh, that's probably just a like slur or blur in the lens where, you catch that light, you get that glare from the sun or the moon or whatever bright light in your camera, and it causes a little flare. So that's what I thought it was at first, but it was like right underneath it, like I was trying to feed off the energy of the solar whatever was happening or whatever the moon was attracting. I don't know. I'll have to share that with you. You can look at my website too. That's where it's shown, but
I can tell you exactly what it was.
Solar worms.
No, it was swamp gas. Plain and simple. Colorado swamp gas.
Swamp gas right below the moon. Okay, got it.
That's right.
Thank you.
Well, that explains that, now that we know what it is.
Now I'll
Brian.
sleep much better, Brian. Thank you very much.
See, that's what I'm here for. That's what I'm here for.
Glad you cleared that up for us, buddy.
Yep. Don't know what I'd do without you. It was the swamp gas.
Pal to the end.
Like Chucky.
Great movie too. Well, here in Washington, not much for UFOs.
What?
And it's pretty relatively quiet around here.
Well,
I don't think you get out enough.
UFOs, what you don't have in the UFOs, you make up for in volcanoes, okay?
Or Bigfoot and Yetis.
There you go.
That's right. The Bigfoot. He's a big in around the Northwest.
We have them here too. Even an albino one.
Oh, yeah. Our last sighting of Bigfoot was no more than 30 miles from where I'm at. And he was seen crossing the road, the main highway, to get to the other side of the forest.
Was that the one with the state patrol and his little gal pal in the side seat, or was that a different one?
I think that was a different one. I don't think this one was captured on camera. I think this one was just hearsay.
Yeah, it was like on a police cam. Like, they didn't have a cell phone or anything else going, but you have the police cam in the front windshield, and they were driving along and just talking everyday bullshit, and they saw this Bigfoot step across one of those big side mounds of snow, stepped across, walked across the highway, and stepped across again and kept going, and he turned back around because he's like, did you fucking see that? And he whipped back around to try to catch it, but they couldn't. But it was caught on his camera, so that was pretty awesome. It could be the same story, but yeah, if I can find that video, I'll share it with you.
So do we literally actually does somebody actually have viable, clear, justifiable evidence of a photograph of Bigfoot? Does anybody know if there's one out there?
There's more and more every day. I just watched one that was here in Farmington, New Mexico, and he not only got video.
Has anyone ever caught one?
No, and as far as finding bones, catching one. Okay, when the fires happened in Washington State, there was video footage of nets with Bigfoot carcasses in it, dead Bigfoot, that they were transporting to somewhere else, probably to take to a lab, to investigate or whatever, probe and prod, instead of giving it a honorable burial. I don't know. I think Bigfoot is like our cousin, you know. They deserve an honorable burial, but they were carrying them away in nets to poke and prod and cut them apart. They know they exist. They know they're there. And there's different degrees of it. Because there was different degrees of us in the forefront. So there's different degrees of Bigfoot.
Exactly. And Eldon, I sent you a picture of Bigfoot today or yesterday.
I didn't need a picture of you, Brian.
Exactly. I'm direct descendant of a Bigfoot.
He's like my great-great-grandfather on my father's side was a Bigfoot.
I would make sense because my daddy was about 7 foot tall.
Well, I would just think, and I guess this is where I have a hard spot with it. I know the technology we have out there. We've got thermal imaging, we've got, infrared sensors, we've got trail cameras, we've got all kinds of things out there. I would think that somewhere, some way, we take our technology of all of our surveillance things that we have, that we could actually capture one on a really good video or something of that nature.
I have to, okay, I think it was season 3 or season 4 on Paranormal Caught on Camera, and it's from Discovery Plus, and there's this guy named Jesus who is from New Mexico, but he was going through Farmington, which is about 45 minutes from me, and he was driving with a Navajo couple. He saw this person, aka Bigfoot, in the field. He's like, pull over right now. I need to catch evidence of this. And he filmed it on his phone. He got closer and closer and closer to it. Generally, people will run because they're afraid for their life, but he got closer and closer. He actually had them take a picture of him at the same point where he saw this Bigfoot to compare size. And then he went around, he was filming. He did not see it at the time, but the Bigfoot was hiding in this brush. And people that were watching the video said, hey, there it was moving in the brush and you didn't even see it. But yeah, he did a lot of things that a lot of people didn't. He didn't have a measuring tape, which who walks around with one of those? But he used his mag light to measure the foot, and he was saying like you, Brian, size 14 or I think 16 even, and his foot was bigger than mine. It looked like Shaquille O'Neal walking around barefoot in the fucking desert. That's the footprint it would have left. His foot was so big, he was like, it's much bigger than mine, and I'm a size 16. So I want to figure out where exactly in Farmington that was so I can go check it out. But we had been doing security up in Rico, Colorado, and we had rocks being thrown down the mountainside towards the mine that we were guarding, and different growling and whooping and different noises going on. And so I went up there one day after doing the Enterprise Bar and Grill investigation, went up there to see if I can find a Bigfoot, but I did find tracks, and I have pictures of my foot against its foot because I didn't have any sort of foundation to put in there to make a Bigfoot track. I wish I would have had even pancake mix on me, but got pictures of it, put rocks where the big toe and the heel were, and so on and so forth to try to make measurements against my shoe at the time. But I believe they do exist, and I don't think they're interdimensional because they would have just disappeared in the first place instead of running across the field or doing whatever.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and you know, that's a very common claim too associated with the Bigfoot is the rocks being thrown. I hear that a lot. We've got some claims here in the state of Arizona where, you know, folks have described, you know, rocks or, you know, and they're not small rocks either. They're pretty good sized rocks being thrown at them, you know. So that's a very common claim. Well, a lot of the claims are like up near the White Mountains, up near, you know, when you get up into Coconino County, the higher elevation, up in the Pines, when you're going up near like Flagstaff, you know, you don't hear those stories of them down in the valleys and down in the desert, down where I'm at, you know, but you hear about them up in near the rim and stuff like that, yeah.
What about the Superstition Mountains? Have you ever checked that out?
You know, only because I'm not superstitious, I haven't. No, I figured if I was superstitious, I probably would. You know, does that make sense?
Well, yeah, but it's got to be more than that. I think they call it that for a reason, but there's a lot of different stories according to that mountain range.
Right, and, you know, I didn't really want to go totally into that too much because that's, and I guess I'll let it out of the bag now that you kind of brought it up, but that's okay. But that is one of those locations that I would like to take Brian to, and him and I go over there with some of our team members and investigate that. We haven't been there to investigate yet, but I think that would be a fantastic place to go, and I want to kind of check that out. But that's some place that you don't want to go by yourself. There are too many incidences there where people have gotten lost and not been found for, you know, weeks, months, or even years later.
Or ever. You know? There was that group of guys that went out and were talking about safety in numbers, but every single one of them disappeared. There was nobody left behind to tell their story, and all they found was a camera, supposedly. Was this a real story, or is this, you know, something else?
Right. Well, this is the key thing, you know, that, you know, you can start going into those mountains and you'll see the town of Apache Junction from that mountain. And, you know, it's going to have to be a rule of thumb. Hey, you know, you don't lose sight of that city, you know, and if you get to where you're losing sight of it, that's when you turn back and go, you know, return back where you can keep that city in sight, but you don't want to go venturing too far into that mountain, no.
Or number one rule, stay where you're at. A lot of people will at first, and then they'll freak out and be like, oh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, and I feel like I should be going this way, which something else could be telling you that. Just stay where you're at till the sun rises, then you know it's coming from the east, and you can direct from there. But it's so scary being lost in the night and in the desert and other places that you're not familiar with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and honestly, Superstition Mountain isn't very far from me. You know, I'm on the west side of the valley here in Phoenix, and Superstition is on the east side.
I know. I'm making a plan next time I go to see my mom and sister. We're probably going to have to do a paranormal investigation together. Bring all my tools and drag you out of the house. Let's go do something. I'm not saying Superstition Mountains, but it'd be cool to check out some location with you.
Oh yeah, that's absolutely, without a doubt. You know, it'll be pretty fun. You know, there's a lot of older cemeteries here on the outskirts, you know, that we like to go to a lot. They're really interesting. You know, it's not a building you're going into or not like that, but there's some cemeteries I go to, like the one down the road from where I'm at right now. You know, I've been going to that cemetery for over a decade, and it's probably one of the places that I feel most comfortable at. Mm-hmm. And I do get, you know, some pretty good profound evidence there. I got a real good thermal hit, you know, not too long ago over there that was
That's fabulous. Awesome. Did you get a picture of it? Thermal?
Absolutely.
Hell yes.
Yes, I did.
That's
I
so
got it right on-
awesome.
and the cool thing is, it's not a still photograph that I took. It was actually on video.
That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
You
I
see,
think you saw that video, didn't you, Brian?
what's that?
That thermal hit video that I captured. You've seen that, haven't you?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty profound. So,
And see, it's like in April, me and Eldon and Jason are going on we'll call it a little road trip.
Ew. You guys should come to
And-
Southwest Colorado because there are so many places I could show you. It's insane.
We have one of the most dangerous spots in all of the U.S. on our list.
Me?
And we house.
Yeah, it's
Well,
pretty
besides-
crazy.
We have the one and only Bobby Mackey's.
Ooh-wee, T-Shane. Well, on that note, you
That's
guys, we'll talk about
I'm
Bobby
even
Mackey's
tempted.
when we get back, because we do have to go to our second music break. On this break, we have Hosni Bronx again, hailing from Jamaica, and then going back and forth from there to the Bronx of New York, as well as King Cinnamon from Biafra, Nigeria. You guys don't go anywhere. We'll be right back after this music break.
I am a child of one who decided this life for
yeah, it's funky on the beat.
Suck my boobs, you got my body loose. Anytime you talk me, you got me confused. Suck my boobs, you got my body loose. Anytime you talk me, you got me confused. Cinnamon, cinnamon, do it softly. I said you wine your body, eat the sweetie, sweetie. Make it rock my body, I am feeling horny. Make it touch my body, I am feeling sweetie. Suck my boobs, you got my body loose. Anytime you talk me, you got me confused. Suck my boobs, you got my body loose. Anytime you talk me, you got me confused. All my men, they wear out. All my guys, they wear out. Imarama, Imarama, Rosie. Imarama, Rosie. All my men, they wear out. All my guys, they wear out. Imarama, Rosie. Imarama, Rosie. Mukomukeji, go bere muketa. Oya mukomukeji, oya bere muketa. Daddy mu eko, omo ni pe mukeji. Daddy bere muketa, omo ni fún mi lẹ́yìn. Daddy fisi, omo ni ejo. Daddy saucy, omo ni ejo. Daddy kosi, omo ni ejo. Daddy tohin kosi, omo ni ejo. Daddy and his baby, them dey for corner. Daddy begin the touch and the girl dey holla. Now daddy begin the open the shirt collar. Now something come up, daddy begin the suck am. Daddy mu eko, omo ni pe mukeji. Daddy bere muketa, omo ni fún mi lẹ́yìn. Daddy fisi, omo ni ejo. Daddy saucy, omo ni ejo. All my men they wear out. All my guys they wear out. Imarama, Rosie. Imarama, Rosie. All my men they wear out. All my guys they wear out. Imarama, Rosie. Imarama, Rosie. Suck my boobs, you got my body loose. Anytime you talk me, you got me confused. Suck my boobs, you got my body loose. Anytime you talk me, you got me confused. Cinnamon, do it softly. I see the wine your body, eat the sweetie. Make it rock my body, I am feeling horny. Make it touch my body, I am feeling sweetie. Suck my boobs, you got my body loose. Anytime you talk me, you got me confused. Suck my boobs, you got my body loose. Anytime you talk me, you got me confused. Fisi, amani, ejo. Daddy saucy, amani, ejo. Daddy kosi, amani, ejo. Daddy kahin kosi, amani, ejo. Daddy contact, amani, ejo. Daddy comfort, daddy consist, amani, ejo. Daddy can eat, daddy 120, amani, ejo. Daddy 18, daddy 240, amani, ejo. Daddy 360, daddy and the baby, them there for corner. Begin the touch and the girl they holla. Daddy begin the open the shirt collar. Something come up, daddy begin the sucker. Daddy mu eko, amani pe mukeji. Daddy bere muketa, amani fún mi lẹ́yìn. Daddy fisi, amani ejo. Daddy saucy, amani ejo. All my men they wear out. All my guys they wear out. Imarama,
Oh yeah, it's funky on the beat.
Babylon to make you suffer. Babylon to make you suffer. Babylon make you suffer. What the desire? Young life. We are ready to fight. Hard life for my people. I don't know why my people live this life. I don't know why my people live this life. I don't know how to fight. 'Cause my people suffer. What do you want, Babylon? I don't understand why this world is so strange, strange with my people. I don't know how to fight, but if we are together, it will work. It will work. Babylon no have no heart. 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 My people, you have to survive. Yeah, you must rebuild you and make your own way. You must not give up. The beginning of the revolt will start. We need to follow our true destiny. Yeah, 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 yeah. I don't know why my people live this life. I don't know why my people live this life. The obstacle we face, yeah, is Babylon. The world is a good place, yeah, for our freedom. You take everything, you don't bring anything, yeah, yeah. Young life, old anti-dread. We must believe in a magical, powerful force that unite us, and not just these people stay speechless again. We don't want to talk, no, it's time to fight, yeah. We start talking. Babylon make you suffer. 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 What the desire? Young life. We are ready to fight.
Welcome back, and thank you so much for joining us this evening on We Are Paradox Media's Late Night in the Rockies. This evening, we're joined by Eldon McInville as well as Brian James. You guys, welcome back, and thanks so much for hanging out with us. And man, I've really had a good time tonight hanging out with you guys.
Oh yeah, it's been a lot of fun, you know, and we got a little bit more time left, which is good. You know, Brian's on mute, which is great. You know, I like it when Brian mutes himself.
Oh! Am I allowed to unmute now?
So yeah, I was saying that, you know, one of those places that I'd really love to take him is Jerome, Arizona. That place is just fabulous for paranormal stuff going on over there. You know, they have a lot of history there. You know, it's not just about, and that's the thing about the paranormal with me, you know, I love to investigate the paranormal, get down to what's going on. But, you can't be involved in the paranormal without having a lot of involvement in history. And I love history.
Yes.
And that's one of the things that I like about Jerome. It's got a lot of, raw history to it. And there's a lot there that you can see. And, if you scratch below the surface of what you're looking at, you can dig up some really cool gems.
Is that where the bird cage is?
No, the bird cage is in Tombstone, Arizona.
Okay.
Yeah.
What's in Jerome? There's something in Jerome that I cannot think of right now. What are the different places there?
There's a few places. You've got the Jerome Grand Hotel, which is probably the most famous.
That's
location.
probably it.
Yeah. And then you got the Haunted Hamburger, which is a restaurant there.
Sounds delicious.
Of course, you got the sliding jail there that a lot of people touch on. Then, of course, you've got the cemetery there that's always active. We were just there not too long ago, and we were getting some hits on our SB11 to go into the cemetery there. It was pretty interesting. But there's a lot of history there, and I love that place. Now, Tombstone is also another place I like going to because I never...
Is it true that they moved it? Did they actually move the buildings and Tombstone is actually in another place? Or is that...
No, they didn't move them. What happened?
Because that's what I heard. People are like, Tombstone is not in the original location. The original location is about 1.5 miles or whatever away. And I'm like, why would they even do that?
No, you're mostly thinking of Goldfield, Arizona. It's a ghost town, Old West mining town. And some of those buildings have been moved and replicated. All those buildings have, since the town was there, been destroyed.
Yeah, those are two different places. The birdcage was from my friend Jamie from my team, and then Tombstone.
No, the birdcage sits exactly where it was built back in 1882.
It was Tombstone that people were saying they moved the building so they wouldn't build the energy up with all the visitors. So they kind of didn't move it too much, but kind of moved it along another line. No, the buildings that are... Okay, so in 1882, there was a fire in Tombstone broke out. Very few buildings survived that fire, okay? Some of the buildings that survived that fire, one, of course, was the birdcage. The second place was Campbell and Hatch's Saloon. That's the place where Morgan Earp was actually shot and killed while he was playing billiards. Mm-hmm.
That building is still original. The OK Corral is still original. Parts of the Shufflin' Hall was damaged, but they repaired that in 1882, and it's still the original building in its original spot. So the rest of the town, of course, was rebuilt, and that was in 1882 when that was all rebuilt. So everything there, I think there's a couple buildings on the outskirts of, off of the strip that has been built since. But
oh my goodness.
where those buildings are today is where they were then. Now, there is one building that I know was moved. And the one building that was moved was actually Wyatt Earp's home.
Oh my goodness.
It was actually moved diagonally across the opposite side of the street. So from one corner to another. And how it worked out is that Virgil Earp, and it's actually on tax assessor records is where you can find this. Wyatt Earp owned actually lot 4, which the fourth lot in from the road, and his brother Virgil owned lots 1, 2, and 3. Well, catty corner across the street is today where Wyatt Earp's house actually sits, not where it sat in its original position. But that is the only one building that I am aware of that has actually moved.
Makes me wonder if they were afraid of just how spiritually powerful he was. Like, he should have died a long time before he did. And he just held in there till he had to give out. He's like, okay, now I'm done. He said exactly when he was done, and it happened. But he held out as long as he could. He could have held out even longer, but he was done when he was done. But just how spiritually powerful he was and knowledgeable, that makes a lot of sense. Because could you imagine?
And during the gunfight at the OK Corral, he was actually the only person not hit by a bullet.
Yeah, it was due to a dirty shot.
Yeah, his trench coat was pierced by a bullet, but he himself was not ever.
Yeah, he was unscathed.
Yeah, absolutely. Yep.
You know, when I come down to Arizona there, Eldon, and we do what we do, if you'd like to elaborate on that, that's up to you there, brother. But we're going to Goldfield.
Goldfield, Arizona?
That's right, because I want the hotel.
I think you have it confused. Goldfield, Arizona here is not the Goldfield you're thinking of. The Goldfield you're thinking of is in Nevada, brother.
Oh, well, we're going to Nevada. I want the Goldfield Hotel.
There's a hotel that is not too far outside of Phoenix that we stopped at. I cannot remember the name right now. I'm just seeing pink and white in this old structural building, but we drove by it. My sister's like, should we stop and check it out? And I'm like, no, because Vern's going to be waiting for us. And we ended up meeting at the same time because we didn't stop, but she bought me a coffee cup from there from a freaking thrift store. Hell yeah. But it was from that hotel, and I do believe it was called the Goldfield. So I think you're correct. I need to Google it just to make sure, but I think there is a Goldfield hotel in the middle of, I don't know if it's Flagstaff or it's somewhere near there, along the way on that highway. And it is totally haunted, especially, I think it's on the 3rd or 4th floor.
I don't think I've ever heard of a Goldfield Hotel in Arizona. I mean, we've got a Goldfield ghost town that's out in Apache Junction that actually sits at the base of the Superstition Mountains. And there is a building there that they call the hotel, but it's not something that people stay in.
Yeah, I can't, because of my all the timers, I can't remember the name right now. But I'm Googling it as we speak. So continue to talk while I'm trying to find it.
So anyways, Brian, so what's with this Goldfield Hotel that you want to accomplish, and what do you want to do there, man?
Well, for one, I want to prove that Zach Baggins is indeed a jackass, which isn't hard to prove in general.
We all know.
Okay, so
that's
first of all, like she just said, I think we all kind of know that. And secondly, the hotel that he investigated is in fact the Goldfield Hotel in Goldfield, Nevada.
And also, not only do we all know him, but he is actually really good in his field, because look at this. They're doing this for 25 fucking years, 25 seasons. He must be doing something right. I don't know. I think it keeps people hooked, especially like the naive, but it is intriguing because I like Aaron, so I like to see what he's doing. But when Zach shows up, I'm just like, yep, you just proven what I said before. He's gotten a little better from the original days. He has grown, but still.
You got to give credit.
I just want to see.
Here's where I give Zach Bagans the credit, okay? Zach Bagans.
He's grown.
He has. He's come a long way, I think. But, again, we draw that fine line between ghost hunter versus paranormal investigator, okay? And, let's face it, if it wasn't for Zach Bagans doing the things that he does, we wouldn't have some of the equipment in this field that we have today.
Right.
Example, the millimeter that he tested out, the SLS camera that,
Ovilus.
the Ovilus. And honestly, I have my opinions about the Ovilus, but other people seem to have luck with it, but that's neither here nor there.
It's hit and miss with all that stuff.
We wouldn't have some of the equipment that we have today if it weren't for Zach Bagans. He's been very good at testing out equipment in the field and, pushing the limits to that, So in that respect, I have to put my hat off to him. When you want to call yourself a paranormal investigator, however, I don't think that I would agree with his methodology on paranormal investigating per se, but it's definitely ghost hunting.
And it has progressed. Like I said before, he's grown.
Mm-hmm.
He was very antagonistic and whatever before, and then he's like, I realized what I did. I think he carried some shit home, and it made him realize some things. And then he's like, okay, I'm going to do it this way. Sometimes he still does it, but for the most part, I think he has a different degree of respect, but I still think he's picking up on other people's energies as far as Aaron and what he's feeling, what's happening to him, and then he will go and say, that's happening to me, but it's worse than yours. So focus on me.
Well, and here's the other thing, you know, I mean, I've heard people give advice, you know, if you want to get your place investigated, you know, call Zach Bagans or, you know, call these big names that are on TV all the time. And, you know, I really worry about that because, you know, these folks, they are in some serious haunted locations. They are in locations that are dangerous. Example, Bobby Mackey's, you know.
Bobby Mackey's is pretty dark for a number of reasons. And some of them have been proven to not be true. But then at the same time, it could be true and they're just saying it's not because they don't want to give any more energy to it. But I do believe in my heart that is what really happened. They did do that to her and they did throw her head in there. And, yeah, that's where all this evil shit is coming from. Because you can't do that shit because you knock some girl up. I hear wind tunnel. I think it's Brian, wind tunnel.
That's a lot of wind,
I want to see if Goldfield is as bad as everybody says it is.
Well, you guys, I have to interrupt on that thought process and say the hotel I was thinking of was the Hotel Monte Vista.
Oh, you're talking about the one in Flagstaff.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that one I've heard of. That one is definitely in Flagstaff, Hotel Monte Vista. It does have a lot of claims there, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, you know, the thing is, you know, when you have those places that you're going into on a constant basis, and you're getting yourself involved in that kind of dark side of things, you know, most definitely somewhere you're going to get something following you somewhere. And, you know, I would concern myself if, well, does Zach have something carrying with him? Is there something following him?
I think he was attacked at a point, just like Ryan Buell from Paranormal State. I think he was attacked by a demon. I think a demon attached to him and caused a whole bunch of shit. But now he's back again, and he's doing really good. So I'm happy for him. A lot of people are like, oh no, he's a fake, he's a fraud, whatever. No, shit can attach to you and cause different shit to happen. And you could see it in his face. You could say that's drugs, but that was deeper than drugs. That was like death. Yeah. That was a fucking demon attached to him, not just drugs.
Oh yeah. And that's that danger thing again, you know. And, you know, I personally, I really don't know that I'd want like Zach Bagans coming to help investigate some issue that I may have. Because you don't know what this guy's got traveling with him, as much stuff as he's involved in. And you know, I don't even know that walking through his museum is a safe idea. I mean, there's...
Yeah, people have gotten attachments doing that too.
Yeah, there's safety disclaimers that you have to sign if you're going to go in there and...
Waivers.
And roam around. Yeah. You have to, and there's a reason for that. You know, it's dangerous.
You know what? They do that, and they make you sign that waiver, but guess what? Them having you sign that waiver is them admitting that they knew there was a risk. So that's where you can win the case. A lot of people say, oh, shit, I signed that waiver. I don't have a case. Guess what, honey boo-boo? You do. They recognize that there was a problem in the first place. Therefore, that's why they made you sign that.
Mm-hmm.
Catch-22.
That's right. That's right. And it's also saying that they could also be attached to them. And they could have issues. And now they're going, and here's the problem. You know, this week they're going through their museum, doing their walk around or whatever they're doing. Next week they're going to somebody's home. How do you know you didn't take something in there? How do you know that when you're going to this haunted location on TV and you're catching all these things, is it something you're catching because of the location? Or are you catching these things because you brought it with you?
Well, I think you would have known about it if you had it already before you went to that place, but you can pick up things. And my husband has said things to me before, like, oh, had you not done this, this wouldn't have happened. And I'm like, you can go to a concert, you can go to a play, you can go anywhere where there's a lot of people, and things will see you, sight you out, think, hey, you look like a tasty meal, and attach to you because you have an opening due to some sort of trauma or depression or anything that could be happening to you. They see that little hole in your aura or your protective field or whatever it is, and they'll get in there. You don't have to be doing a paranormal investigation. You could just be going to the freaking grocery store.
That's right. Absolutely. And, here's the, like you said, and you said the key thing, you know, especially when you've been in this field long enough, you know when something is attached to you. Just as if something was attached to Zach, he would know that,
Yeah.
However, here's the deal with that. The viewers don't know that. He does. See? And I'm not saying that this is what he's doing. This is not some claim to explaining his haunted adventures in these locations. All I'm doing is giving another perspective that maybe folks don't realize could be the situation, and who knows, maybe here's the thing, depending on how dark these entities could be, let's face it, they're like the masters of the skies. They love trickery,
Well, guess what? I'm not like a really, really big entity, but we've done Ghost Box with Bill Hauser and different things on this show, and people have been attacked in their own homes right after listening to it. And that's why every time we'd open and close, we tell people, make sure you say a prayer, do whatever your faith or your protective beliefs are, because things can come into your home. And we learned this through a process. And so if you don't take those steps, you don't do that, you're putting yourself in danger, because I think the internet, phone lines, whatever, anything with any sort of electric charge or wires, therefore that they can travel through, they will. They don't have to be stuck. They can go anywhere they want to. They're free.
Yeah, it's just an easier travel road for them. I mean, obviously they've been traveling, long before we had electricity, It's just an easier way for them to travel now.
Yeah, it just blew me away when that happened. And I was like, are you serious? Like, I couldn't believe that me just doing a radio sweep to pick up spirit voices would cause somebody to be attacked in their home by another entity that is not spiritual, but somewhat demonic, somewhat attached to that field. Not quite a demon, but something not good.
Well, a lot of people, they'll use the ghost box, and it's, for a lot of people, it's a wonderful thing. But when you get down to the really, the nitty gritty of it, what is the difference between a ghost box and a Ouija board?
And that's what a lot of people say. Any tool you use, what's the difference between that and a Ouija board? You're still trying to communicate. How is that different?
That's right.
It just is, right?
You can still open,
Not really.
You can still open stuff up.
Yeah.
Yep. You can
Kinda
still
creepy.
open things up and invite things in, and Yep, it's just as dangerous.
Have you ever saw those videos where they're like, you cannot follow us from here, you have to stay here, you cannot follow me home, and it laughs? Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
How are you supposed to control that? They say that we're more powerful, we have that light within us, so on and so forth. Do you really believe in yourself and what you're saying? Or are you just saying it?
You have to say it in the name of whatever it is your belief is. I personally, I'm not religious by any stretch of the word. However, I do believe in my God, and I do pray to my God.
You have to have faith in whatever it is.
If you have faith in that, then whatever your faith is, it doesn't matter what it is, but use whatever faith it is that you have. And if you have faith in that through that faith, you have to tell that entity, you cannot follow me, and through the power of whoever your faith is, you cannot follow me. You must stay here, and
or
they
go
can
back
laugh
from
all they
whence you
want.
hence.
That's right. They can laugh all they want, but guess what? If you're using your faith and you
If
have
you really
belief in
mean
your
it.
faith, that's right. They can laugh all they want. They're not going anywhere. I do this all the time. My lady and I we'll do that constantly. You cannot follow us. You must stay here. Through our faith, you cannot do this.
Or you cannot stay here.
and-
You have to leave.
or something. Yeah, something. Cross that. However it is, to make sure that it doesn't attach to you. That's what you need to do. Do your faith. So the fact that it acknowledged the laugh tells me that it definitely heard and it listened, it understood. And, it's very possible that you're dealing with something that, you angered it. So rather than showing that
pissed
anger,
off.
it showed a laugh, So
You empowered
made
it.
mad that way. There you go. And the fact that you acknowledge that, now you're empowering it.
You're feeding it. Do not feed the
Exactly.
rhinos. Do not feed the alligators. They can eat on their
Don't
own.
feed the strays. Yeah, don't feed the
A
strays.
fed gator is a dead gator, guys. Don't feed the alligators, okay?
Yep, absolutely. So, let's see. Boy, we must have really put Brian on a permanent mute, didn't we?
I don't know. I was about to say, Brian. Mr.
What's up?
Eldon. What do you guys think? Have you guys ever been scratched or touched?
Oh,
Yes.
all the time.
Yes,
I've
absolutely.
been physically attacked a few times. Got touched many times.
I haven't been attacked and I haven't been scratched, but I have definitely been touched.
What else were you saying, Brian?
It's quite the ordeal.
Well, for me, like right before I got possessed that one time, okay, so I went out on the front porch because I was a smoker. At that point, I was smoking Swisher Sweets, mostly grape. But I was out there smoking, and my daughter Lily, she's like, I just have to be with you all the time. So she was hugging my leg, and we're standing out there on the front porch, and we hear this really crazy growl come from the driveway. And this was shortly after the Dylan Redwine investigation and that dog thing we saw in the house, which I think was a jackal, but I'm not sure. My roommate saw it follow my truck home, and then after that I heard the growl, and I heard it and looked that direction and then looked down at Lily, and she was looking that direction, and then she looked up at me, and I was like, did you hear that? And she's like, yeah, Mama, I think we need to go inside. I'm like, I think we do. Let's go. And so we went in, but yeah, after the scratch and the growl and all the other stuff is when that happened to me. But it was crazy that she heard it and that my roommate saw this thing follow my truck home that night after the investigation. I'm like, why didn't you tell me that when it happened instead of months later? That would have been helpful.
Mm-hmm. Wow. Followed your truck home.
Yes. He's like, I saw this black dog thing running after your truck when you came home down the driveway. At the time, he was dating my sister neighbor Lisa, which is 2 houses down where my daughter now lives. But yeah, he was dating her, and he said he saw me pull into the driveway, and he saw this black dog thing chasing my truck.
Wow.
No, that's not the first time I've heard of that happen. I can't remember where I heard it, but I've heard that story recently too about somebody getting chased by a black figure in their vehicle.
Yeah, it's super creepy.
One of the biggest claims up in the Four Corners area is claims of skinwalkers.
Yes.
That is very huge up there. And, that is one of those things that I would really love to look into.
It is so scary. Okay, so I've grown up. Okay, I moved from Arkansas to Washington State, and then my uncle was a nurse, he wanted to go to Cortez, the Four Corners area, Mesa Verde. I'm like, what's a Navajo? It's actually Navajo. But yeah, we moved to that area, and skinwalkers. We actually used to feed the missionaries from the LDS church, and they were telling us that they went up on Mesa Verde and were attacked by skinwalkers, and they actually had claw prints and stuff indented into their van that they were driving, and they were afraid for their lives. It was insane. And I had seen a few weird things along the roads, but it wasn't until I was going from between the area of Toyoak, Colorado, which is right outside of Cortez, and let's say Kingman, is where I saw my very first full-fledged. Like, I've seen them in like coyote or wolf form, like collecting around the line of my porch light. Why would that even matter? But I think it was light and the light within me projecting that light. So they stayed within the line of the light, and I put my cigarette out and went on inside. But on the way down to Phoenix, Arizona, between Toyoak or Cortez, Colorado, and Kingman, Arizona, we saw a red and white truck on the right side of the road, passenger and driver side doors open, interior lights on. You could not see anyone. And then about 50 yards down the road, there was this very tall blonde woman with a striped, like, it looked like an 80s sort of t-shirt that was long sleeved, and it was white with like some teal and orange and black and whatever stripes, and her stomach was really protruding. At first it looked like she was pregnant, but the closer you got to her, she looked like she had eaten someone, probably the guy that owned that truck up the road. And I didn't see her face, but my husband did. And he's like, what do you think? Should we turn around? And I'm like, go fuck yourself. No, let's not do that and call it good. That was not natural, because not only was her stomach protruding like it was, her arms were longer than her knees. So her arms protruded to the length where her wrists were below her knee joints. More goblinish than human. This is not natural. Keep on rolling. Let's go.
Yeah, definitely sounds like something I wouldn't want to fuck with. I'd be long gone. So I'm completely with you on that one.
So nothing down in Arizona, Eldon? Like, that's crazy. There's so many different tribes, but I think it originates from the Navajo tribe against the Utes, but I'm not quite sure. That's just what I've heard. Hello?
Did we lose Eldon?
I don't know.
Nope, there you go.
Oh, there you are.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, we can
Sorry
hear you
about
now.
that, guys. So that's an amazing, deal there, because, my lady, she's Apache. She's not Navajo. The skinwalker thing is a Navajo thing. However, we do spend considerable time on the reservation here in Arizona.
Navajos are my favorite, I have to say. I love Navajos.
And here's the thing that's really, a lot of people don't know this, but, the Navajo and the Apache are actually the same people.
Okay.
And how that come to be is they actually migrated south from the Alaskan area up there in Alaska. All right. And when they reached areas down here in Arizona, some of them banded off towards the north and some banded off towards the south. It was actually the Mexicans that named them Navajo and Apache. Because of the fact that they were always at fighting war with the Apache, they gave them the Apache name. And Navajo was given Navajo by them because they're northern people. But they're actually all one and the same.
I have to tell you.
All one and the same.
Okay, so the Utes told the United States of America when they were making their maps, etc., the Navajo are actually called the Dene people, right? So the Utes said, no, their name is Navajo because the name Navajo in Ute was thief, but the actual name of the tribe is the Dene. The Dene people.
So when you go back to when they were first originating and coming down from Alaska, and this is why the Apache, Navajo, and Alaskan people, their language is right close to each other, like it's almost the same language. When you look at their languages, it's the same language practically. There's only a couple words between Navajo and Apache that mean something different. It's
Yeah,
kind
and
of
that's how
like
it
a
was
different
in the
dialect.
Western Coast. You could be Eskimo
Now-
or whatever. Like, there's a lot of similarities within that, but it's very different. Just like the Cherokee people, they were the first to have the written language. There's so
Correct,
many different
correct.
differences between tribes, but there are often similarities as well because they're kind of offshoots of each other. Just like the Anasazi, where everybody thinks they were abducted by aliens because they just disappeared off the face of the earth, but then they're calling them the Puebloans.
Right. Yep.
So are they really Puebloans, or is that just the small percentage that was left and then the rest of them went somewhere else? There's so many questions. And Kachina dolls, what do you guys think about those?
That's interesting. And my ex-wife used to collect those things. And
I know, aren't they
freaked me out.
creepy?
Oh, yeah, they would freak me out. And, actually, we went through a move, and I'm like, maybe we need to let's let my aunt hang on to these in her garage for a while, and literally my aunt still has those dolls even today, believe it or not.
Thank Gord.
Yeah, I couldn't get along with the dolls, I couldn't do that. Not that dolls freak me out, but they did.
Yeah.
Those ones did.
They're different.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they just feel different, too.
Yeah, they do. I used to work in a
Yeah.
shop that sold Native American jewelry, which was so beautiful, especially the opals and
Right.
turquoise and such. And then the Kachina
Right.
dolls. But that room, I was like, is it the room or is it the dolls or is it a combination of the two? I couldn't figure it out, but it was so creepster. I was just like, oh my God, what is happening? Something is happening back here. I'm trying to figure it out. Sometimes things fell off the shelf, but mostly it was just like knocks and whatever going on. Knocks and
Right.
clacks. I want to say
Right.
pings,
Well,
but it's clacks.
Well, what's so interesting down here, especially for me, is, when we're able to go to the reservation, I take my equipment with me, and I'm like, okay, so where can we go today that is kind of off limits? I kind of push it to that wire, where can we go, And the last time we were there, we actually visited 3 cemeteries that were there. And we visited them during the day. And I thought, well, I want to see what kind of activity I can get here, see what happens. And we're getting all kinds of responses on the SP11, on the audio. We're getting all kinds of activity. I'm like, well, this is cool. So we'll come back tonight and we'll see what we can get tonight, set up some cameras and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And we went back that night, nothing, flatlined, completely nothing.
Yeah, you have to stay there. Otherwise, it'll
And I'm
stop
like-
because it's not feeding off of you or your equipment. It's just like,
Well,
I was here,
well-
now I'm gone because I don't have the power to come back. And there's different
Well,
hours people are there too.
like most of the other cemeteries I go to here around the valley, when I go during the day and I can pick up activity, usually the activity picks up by that night. So I can go out there with cameras and capture all kinds of cool stuff.
Yeah.
But that's the first time I've ever seen it where it completely, like, you get nothing. And I'm like, I wonder why that is. So I started the following day asking around, what they thought of the theory of what's going on there, And this is when I learned and discovered that with the Apache people, customarily, it's that you're supposed to not go outside after dark because you see things and hear things that you're not supposed to. Like, example, even when you're in your own house after dark, you're not supposed to look in the mirror. It's kind of a superstition thing, the way that, I took it.
Yeah.
And the way
It's
that
like,
I
don't
can
look in the
interpret
reflection of the window. How can I help that?
Right.
Motherfucker.
Exactly.
Trying to make my world
Exactly.
impossible? Let me close the blinds.
Right, exactly. Close the blinds. Well, you know, the thing about it is, and the way I kind of interpreted that was, you know, the spirits at the cemetery knows that that's customary. Nobody's going to be there at night. So I'd have to put two and two together. And if I know nobody's going to be there at night, why would I want to be there? You know, you're not going to be there.
Yeah.
That's the way I kind of took that kind of thing, you know. Whereas some of the cemeteries here, like example, the one down the street, there's people there 24/7. They'll go in, they'll pay respects, whatever, you know. So
take their lunchtime walk. That's what they do here. I mean, it's lunchtime. I just ate. I'm going to take my 1.5 mile walk.
And let me tell you, the freakiest thing I ever seen in that cemetery down the street here, my son and I, we were sitting outside on the road, and the way the cemetery is set up is it's broke up in sections. One section is on one side of the street, the other section is on the other side of the street. And we were parked on this street right between the two, and we had the driveway to both cemeteries right in front of us. And we're sitting there one night just taking a break because he was in there investigating. And all of a sudden we see this guy. He comes walking out of one cemetery. He walks across the street and goes into the other cemetery. Now, that's not so unusual, except the problem was he was carrying a shovel.
He's up to something.
You know, that's pretty bad when you're in a cemetery at night and the freakiest thing you see is a living person.
With a shovel.
With a shovel, yeah.
Do you work here? What are you doing here with that shovel?
Exactly. Well, you know, I guess if you're going to bury a dead body, you might as well bury it at a fresh burial because they're not going to look there.
Yeah, at least have a spoon, something.
You know, so I don't know. I wasn't going to ask the guy any questions. I can tell you that for dang sure.
Oh, yeah, you don't want to be the next victim on the victims list.
Yeah, you know, my son's like, oh, let's go ask him what he's up to. I'm like, no, you're going to stay right here, and so am I. We're not going anywhere.
It reminds me of the story of the ghost stop over here by the Greenwood Cemetery. See, we have the Greenwood Cemetery on the right-hand side, and we got Riverside Cemetery on the left. Mm. Now, the reason is when the bus went to drop people off on its last route, by the Greenwood Cemetery, the bus died. Completely lost power for no reason.
Ruh-roh.
And everybody watched as an old-timer carrying a shovel and a lantern and a long coat walked from one side of Greenwood.
That's totally a gravekeeper, dude.
Wow.
To Riverside Cemetery. And disappeared. And after he was gone, the bus regained full power and the bus took off.
Creepy.
That was by 24 people that still talk about that today.
You know, in comparison, you know, Spokane versus Phoenix is actually a very small place.
There's so much activity between the two. Like, my most influential experiences were in Pettigrew, Arkansas, which is the most northeastern part of Arkansas, next to Boston, and then here in, well, it was Seattle, Washington, but Cortez, Colorado, and Bayfield, Colorado especially. Four Corners area of Colorado is the secondary.
Yeah, and, you know, I was amazed at how many cemeteries Spokane actually has for being such a considerably small place.
It's so old school.
In size.
It has such a history.
Right. And, you know, I just kind of wonder, you know, my lordy, I mean, are those winters really a killer or what?
Well, it depends on how the airwaves go. Could be dry, could be very humid. If it's humid, it penetrates so much, and it's really a killer. It will kill you fast.
Right? You know, so here I am down in Phoenix, Arizona. I'm chilled to the bone, you know.
I know, it's
outside,
very
you know?
cold for Phoenix right now. Holy shit, I saw earlier somebody said, oh, it's 43 degrees here right now. I'm like, that's really cold for that area of Arizona. Holy shit.
Well, you got to
like,
figure, when we're used to 115 degree
125,
summers,
118.
You know, when you're dealing with that, you know, that's a 70-degree difference, you know, as opposed to those people up north they're used to 85 to 95 degree summers. Well, a 70-degree difference for them would be down in the teens.
Yeah,
So
well,
if you can kind of look at the comparison, it's
trying to relate to
crazy.
Brian, I lived in Marysville, Washington for a little bit throughout my life, and it was so humid there and so dark. It's a whole different sort of thing that takes, I don't know, negative toll on you. It's dark, it's rainy, it's humid, and the heat with the humidity. I hate the humidity the most. I would like a nice, dry, hot heat as opposed to a humid heat. Holy shit.
Oh, yeah. Well, and the thing is, I drove a truck, semi-truck over the road for 17 years. I mean, I've been in every major city across the country probably so many times.
Yeah.
And, I was telling Brian that in all the years driving a truck, and I made a lot of visits to Seattle on that truck, and I can never remember once I'd ever been to Seattle that it was not raining,
So depressing.
It is. I would have liked to have seen Seattle just at least once in the daylight, and, when it wasn't raining, but I never have, and, Brian's like, well, Spokane's on the eastern side, we see sun over here,
I'll
that
tell
does
you,
change.
I don't see any rain in Seattle. That is February 31st.
It's more of a mist in Seattle. Penetrating mist.
And like you were saying, that humid heat versus that dry heat.
Oh, yes.
I compare that to Miami, Florida. That is.
I lived there as a kid.
Yeah, and I've been to Miami, Florida so many times, and I'll tell you, even living in Phoenix, Arizona, I go to Miami, I go, oh no, I couldn't handle this.
Yeah, I like
no
it for a
way.
little bit. I used to like swimming in the ocean and stuff like that, but after a while I was like,
Yeah.
ew, it's so icky, sticky. Like, I just get this sticky feeling on me, and I don't like it anymore. I don't like to swim in the ocean anymore. It was kind of like a buildup that happened. Yeah, at first it was cool and fun, but then after that it was like it just built and built and built, and you're like, I'd rather swim in the chlorinated pool, please. Thank you. Better-mosh.
And
yes, I don't like it.
It's a heavy air too. It's hard to breathe. It's a heavy air. I mean, at least here in Phoenix, it's
I love
a dry
the shells.
heat. So.
It's like people that say they want to sit in white sand. Why do you want to sit in a bunch of fish poop?
Yeah, you want some sand up in your crack and beyond? Come on. Collect some shells, some sea dollars or silver dollars. What do they call them? I have like a couple bucketfuls of it from the western coast. But
this is fabulous. This is great. We go from ghosts to UFOs, and now we're over here talking about sand in the crack. This is wonderful, man.
Yeah, the world around us today. How do we handle it? On that note, you guys, thank you so much again for being my guest, Mr. Eldon and Brian. How can our listeners find you guys? What are your sites? What are the different outlets where they can find you and your shows?
Oh, you can find it on... Oh, go ahead.
Go ahead, Brian. You go ahead. You got it, buddy.
Oh, you can find us on Facebook by searching Global United Paranormal Foundation. You can find us on Twitter by searching United Paranormal or Global United Paranorm. You can find us on TikTok. You can find us on Instagram and the Clapper by searching Global United Paranormal. You can find us on YouTube under Shadow Zone Paranormal Talk. And you can find us on the Tumblr by looking up Global United Paranormal.
And just remember, if you do have an emergency, we have a telephone number that you can call us direct. If you have an emergency, have a problem, you can give us a call anytime.
And what is the phone number?
My telephone number, you can call mine direct, and it's going to be 602-583-0846. And Brian's is, go ahead, Brian.
509-601-0518. And these numbers are open and available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 364 and a half days a year.
Non-stop.
Yeah, wake me up. it's important to help people because, I don't know, I feel really bad for people that they feel like they're going crazy because they're the only ones experiencing it and nobody else is. And they're like, I feel like I'm going crazy. No, you're not. That is how they take control. They want you to feel crazy and out of control so they can take control of you. Like, oh man, I hate that feeling. I'm like getting an adrenaline rush right now thinking about it. It's so creepy.
Yeah, there are those of us out there that they want, we want to help you out. We want to be there for you. We've gone through it ourselves. I know I have. I've experienced it myself, and I've been terrified, and thus why I'm in this field. And we're here to help you out. So
that's awesome. I'm so glad that I found you guys all by chance and that you guys are here this evening. Thank you so much once again to be my guest tonight, Mr. Eldon and Mr. Brian. It was awesome to have you and to hang out with you and to learn from you.
Absolutely. Thank you very much for having us.
Very much so, and very much likewise. We have learned a lot from you as well, Tessa.
I hope to have you guys back again in the future.
Absolutely.
Thank you very much.
Yes to the yes. And thank you to all of our friends on We Are Paradox Media's KPNL Radio, Facebook, Twitter, Periscope, iHeartRadio. Actually, Periscope doesn't exist anymore. It's now Twitter. They ate Periscope alive. Alive. Yes. Pretty crazy. iHeartRadio, and wherever else beyond the omniverse you may be listening this evening. I can't wait to do it again tomorrow night. We got Miss Mama Mary on. We're going to get to know her for the first hour, the last 2 hours. We're going to do free psychic readings. I'm intrigued. I've never had her on before, but I have a lot of good, positive instincts. My instincts aren't outspeaking, so that's a good sign. You guys, don't forget, we are all in this together. Together, we can make the world a little better. And together, my friends, we are Paradox Media, because without you, there is no us. If you want to join us in the Skype after party, look me up, send me a Skype invite at tessa.n.thomas30@gmail.com or give us a jingle jangle at 970-335-9596. Until next time, nighty night, love and light. You guys take care of my youth, and I'll see you back here, same time, same place.